Hi, you're watching the Times of India's big election special show, The Narrative. And the race is over, and while the winners will be decided or will be announced on June 4th, we're bringing you a sneak peek into how India voted and who will sit on the throne of Delhi Darbar. Let me dive right in and introduce our guests first, and then we're going to go with the national numbers first. Joining us in studio is Sutanu Guru, Executive Director of Sea Voter Foundation. Praful Ketkar is going to join us shortly, editor, the organizer. And Sandeep Ghosh is joining us all the way from San Francisco. And we're going to come to you, Sandeep, shortly to take your inputs after we show the national figures. And Manu Sharma, psephologist, is joining us. I'm going to talk about the big numbers first, because that's what we are here for. We're going to bring you the numbers ahead of June 4th, the exit polls, what they are saying. And here you have it on your screen. Exit polls are telling us that, and these are the exit polls that have declared the national numbers. And this is India News. D Dynamics is giving 371 to the NDA, and for the India Alliance, it's 125. Republic Bharat Maitree's exit poll is giving 353 to 368 to the NDA and 118 to 133 to the India Alliance. Republic TV, PMark, Republic is doing two exit polls, one with Maitree's and one with PMark. That's giving 359 to the NDA, 154 to the India Alliance, and TV5 Telugu is giving 359 and to the NDA, 154 to the India Alliance, and Jan Ki Baat, that's giving 377, highest of this lot, to the NDA, and to the India Alliance, it's 151. Clearly, interesting times because 400 par to nahi ho raha hai NDA ka, at least as far as these numbers tell us. But remember, exit polls often get it wrong. But having said that, that's what the India Alliance will be hoping today, that the exit polls have got it wrong, because they have been talking about how their numbers are going to be 300 par, but doesn't look like 300 par for the India Alliance. I'm going to come to you straight away, Sandeep, first and foremost. You're sitting in San Francisco today, away from the heat and noise of the Indian elections this time. But from there, please give us a bird's eye view of what do you think of these numbers that have come in so far.
See, I'm personally not very surprised by these numbers.
I can't hear you properly, Sandeep.
Hello, is it better?
Mute? Just check.
No, I'm not on mute. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Okay, can our producers check his audio over here? Let me come to Sutanu Guru in the studio. In the meanwhile, Sutanu, your thoughts on these numbers first, and then we're going to go to Sandeep and figure out what's happening with his audio there.
No, I think what we need to understand are two things here. The most significant thing is that Narendra Modi becomes the only Prime Minister after Jawaharlal Nehru to win 3 consecutive Lok Sabha mandates. That in itself is a big achievement, because even Indira Gandhi had won only 2 consecutive. The second and even more significant thing, in my opinion, is that each time elections happened in 52, 57 and 1962, all won by Jawaharlal Nehru, actually the Congress lost vote share. But in this case, in 2014 and 19 and now projected for 2024, it looks like the BJP is gaining vote share. So these are numbers of very, very huge significance, and these represent a tectonic shift in the polity of India.
A tectonic shift, you are saying, but that is if these numbers are fine. What would you, because what we are seeing, and Manu, let me get your inputs on these big numbers. Manu, if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes. What's your sense of these numbers, Manu?
So my sense of this number, the first thing, obviously, it would be indeed a big achievement for Prime Minister Modi if he's able to become a third time Prime Minister and win a successful, and I would say clear re-election. The second sense that I'm getting is that, these are just preliminary, I would say, numbers flowing in, but there is a hint of incumbency in some of the states. So there hasn't been a sort of tsunami or a sweep across the states whereby people have not even looked at let's say the candidate and just gone ahead with the symbol. So there is a mix and match of that happening. There is expansion of BJP happening in newer territories, but there is also maybe some fatigue on the margin setting in, but as of now it's not significant enough to really basically put them out of par.
But, if we were sitting on 2019 and we were talking about this, we're talking about 10 years of anti-incumbency and still these kind of numbers. If that's not a Modi wave, I don't know what is.
No, I mean, just let me clarify on this bit.
Yeah.
When we talk of a wave, the question is of the narrative. What has been the narrative like? So when it comes to narrative, the fight was closer. But when it comes to vote share and seat share, as of now, it's not translating perhaps in a ratio that the opposition would like. But then, again, it's a credible performance by the BJP. But the real benchmark would have been if the narrative itself would have been landslide winner. There wasn't even a contest around key questions or.
You mean to say 400 par? Sutanu, I want to come to you with that. And if Sandeep is fine, back with us, guys, please let me know. I'd like to go to him. Sutanu, what's your sense? If Modi had not given that clarion call 400 par, would these numbers still be not looking like wow? It's just that they're not 400 par.
See, there are two things here again. One is that 400 par has always been rhetoric. It's meant to energize your workers, your party activists and other supporters. I have travelled across India, so let's forget these numbers for the moment. I have literally travelled to every state in India over the last 3 months. In every state I have travelled more than 1 lakh kilometers, and I agree with Manu that Modi remains overwhelmingly popular, while in contrast, a lot of BJP MPs are deeply, deeply unpopular. And that is getting reflected in the numbers, because when on 4th of June, when we see the final numbers, we will see that in quite a few regions and in regions within states, in states within constituencies, a lot of BJP candidates' vote share has gone down drastically. The thing is, the BJP vote share has been so huge in these western and heartland states that when a decline in vote share is not translating into a loss of seats.
Okay, not translating into a loss of seats. I'd like to just tell my producers in the back end to keep the graphics on the screen at all times. People want to see numbers. We should show them numbers at all times. Let's not go. Our faces are not important at this point. I think people want to see the numbers that we are going with. And as we delve into this, show further, we'll of course go state-wise into each of the states, but these are the national numbers that we are getting so far from the exit polls that have been announced by various agencies. We will keep adding to these numbers as and when the national numbers for other agencies are out. But this is the big news that we are getting out of here, and that BJP is easily cruising on its own, and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to become the the Prime Minister for the 3rd consecutive term. No mean feat. There must be very few people who must have done 3. Of course, there was Jawaharlal Nehru. After that, there's any. But even globally, 3 consecutive terms for one leader, that's unheard of.
Last I can recall in a proper democracy is, I think, Margaret Thatcher in England.
Margaret Thatcher. Have we got our friend from San Francisco back with us, guys?
I think we would love his humorous take on this.
Hello.
Sandeep,
Hello.
Sandeep, can we come to you from San Francisco? What's your sense?
Can you hear me? Is this better now?
Sandeep,
Hello?
can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
But I can't hear Sandeep at all, guys. I don't know why we're not being able to listen to him. Okay, if the viewers can hear him, fine, but I can't hear him. So we'll fix that. Please carry on, Sandeep. Our viewers can hear you. I'll just play it blind.
Yeah, okay. Now, I'm a bit amused by Manu's comment about the narrative. I don't think 400 is a narrative. 400 was a nara, you can say. That was a call, but that is not really the narrative. So I would not really get hooked on to 400 just now. I think we should see at what 354 or 350 plus minus whatever say there. And that I think is clear. And I totally agree with Sutanu about this BJP's two, I think, weak points this time were the local anti-incumbency, which partly they tried to offset by replacing candidates. And secondly, while doing so, I think they could have made some mistakes in the ticket allocation. That would give them some. In fact, you'll find dents in places like Rajasthan and even in Madhya Pradesh, perhaps, or other states. So that has been the twin factor. But as far as Mr. Modi coming back for a third time, other than Mr. Yogendra Yadav and the Congress spokespersons for understandable reasons, I don't think anybody who, with a reasonable, a sense of what was happening, had any doubts about the return of Mr. Modi. And I don't think that any of the exit polls is going to debunk that fact. We'll have to see what people have been talking about, whether it's a 300 plus or it falls below 300, but still above 272. That was really what was in doubt. And I think maybe it's too early to, while I do go by the 350 numbers at the moment, but I don't think we should fall flat on our faces for any upset or any changes which happen later on to say, yeah, it's 350 plus all the way as yet. I think there we need to probably hold our horses for a little while longer to see exactly the trends coming. Because, finally what happens, Aditi, we are in this first past the poll sort of system. It's not just always vote shares. We have seen even in other elections like Madhya Pradesh in the previous, not this term, but earlier where BJP's vote share was higher, still in terms of number of seats, Congress beat them. So a lot of those things can happen because if Sutanu would be and Manu would be both much more knowledgeable about numbers. If you see in 2019, BJP's victory in a number of seats, the vote margins were very narrow. So some of those factors can come in. But at the moment, the interesting thing is that, states in the South, I don't think BJP, from general expectations, is doing that SAF kind of thing, which Congress had been saying that Dakshin mein SAF, Uttar mein half. That is not really happening. I was seeing some other figures where I think would be of greater interest is what's happening, for example, in Bihar. Is BJP improving its tally or NDA improving its tally, or is INC able to, not INC, the India Alliance able to make a dent out there? I think those are the factors which probably needs to be seen. I have seen it in terms of narrative, coming back to what Manu was saying. It is, the question would be whether Congress's narrative has held. What was always known, and Sutanu might bear me out, in the regions, the regional parties had their own equity. That is where your anti-incumbency was actually working. And that is what has to be seen. But as soon as you talk about the total numbers, there we have to see whether Mr. Rahul Gandhi's narrative or whatever, or Congress's narrative of Dakshin mein Saaf, whether those things are happening as yet or not. But overall, what we are seeing so far, I don't think personally I'm surprised. The final numbers will change as we go along. But the trend, by and large, I think should be reassuring to most.
Right.
Reassuring, not in the sense of
it's interesting that you talk
expectation, but
about. It's interesting, Sandeep, that you talk about what Rahul Gandhi was saying and what many Congressies are saying. But let's talk about what worked for Mr. Modi, or let's also talk about what worked for Mr. Gandhi, because it does seem that the India Alliance is getting, now we need to see the breakup of these numbers to see what are the numbers that Congress is getting from what we understand, and that we will see as we go subsequently into respective states. But that will be the key to see. But talking about the campaign itself, where Modi was talking about making India a 5 trillion economy, On the other hand, there was Rahul Gandhi who was talking about or asking people about their caste. Is that not the antithesis for the aspirational India we now know of?
See, I've seen Aditi it in two parts,
Sandeep,
if
I'll
I
Yeah.
come.
may. One part is I think everybody, one focus was gone thinking that BJP is going to, it's Ram Mandir and those things are what's going to win BJP this election. I'm not a psephologist, but I see there are two ways things happen. One is you have to ensure that your core voter remains with you. Number two is whether the fence sitters, which way they are going. Now, BJP ensured the core voters staying with them with the Ram Mandir narrative and whatever they have played in terms of whether I don't want to say it so explicitly about this Hindu Muslim or whatever they're saying. So they made sure first their core voters stayed. Second bit comes about the people who are the fence sitters. Fence sitters, obviously, your challenger will try to take away from you. And fence sitters, when they are trying to take away, it is whether the narrative which Rahul Gandhi tried to build, whether that is going to tilt the fence sitters. My own sense is the fence sitters will not get taken in by the caste censors, etc. Fence sitters issue were much more to do with what the future holds for them and whether the current pain they may be facing in terms of income, unemployment, or inflation, whatever you want to call it, whether they were willing to trade that off of the present in terms of looking at the future. And there, I think Mr. Modi was able to, with his 5 trillion economy and 2047, Vikshit Bharat, etc., able to inspire the confidence that, hey, I can still give you a better future. And hearing Mr. Rahul Gandhi talking about the rest of it, khadakat, 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 khadakat may give you relief today. It's not going to give you relief tomorrow. And that is where they may have failed to swing the fence sitters.
All right. So let me come to you with that Sutanu, because you've traveled the length and breadth of this country over the last 2 months,
3
right?
months.
3 months. You've talked to people across states, across socioeconomic backgrounds, across. What do you think would have, why has there been no impact of anti-incumbency on Mr. Modi? Mr. Modi, we all know, continues to remain one of the most popular faces of one of the most popular leaders this country has ever seen. What has now that seems to be now converting into votes? What seems to have worked for the BJP and what did not work for the India Alliance, or for that matter for the Congress? As I said, the numbers are still to come in of individually of Congress, but the India Alliance not really taking off because it's a motley group of many parties. It's not
True.
just, and here this is BJP plus just a fraction of their numbers.
True. See, the first thing is that wherever I have traveled, overwhelming majority of India voters, families, they are families with a family income of possibly approximately 25,000 per month. Really, I mean, that's majority of India. 25, 30,000 per month is usually the family income. Now, in every corner of India, they are struggling. They are struggling to meet the family budget. And there is a genuine fear of unemployment, and they are afraid when the children grow up, will they get jobs, will they get a livelihood or not. So that struggle and that beginning of the disappointment with the Modi regime has already started. But as Sandeep pointed out, they also have enormous trust in Narendra Modi to deliver a better future. Like he said, $5 trillion economy, Viksit Bharat. And the other thing I felt across is a sense of gratitude towards Modi, because we don't understand the significance of this sitting in Delhi
Right.
or in metros. But the power of a bank account for a woman who had never dreamt of a bank account, a toilet, a mudra loan, a pakka concrete house. Now these are things which have had an enormous impact, and voters are genuinely grateful towards Modi. And lastly, I would say, except to a significant extent in Tamil Nadu and to some extent in Kerala, voters in India, wherever you go, Assam, Mizoram, Jammu Kashmir, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Karnataka, Maharashtra, West Bengal, they simply do not trust Rahul Gandhi. So let's wait for 4th June. We don't know what the numbers will be. These may turn out to be wrong. But as a reporter, after having travelled, I had actually done an amateur piece to camera and I put it on Twitter or X, where about a month ago I had said that I don't see the BJP winning less than 300 seats.
Okay, not winning less than 300. Let me come to you, Manu, with that. The question is, Sutanu talked about the trust factor among voters as far as Rahul Gandhi is concerned.
Yes.
But India Alliance is not just about Rahul Gandhi, right? There are other motley group of parties. There's Mamata Banerjee, there's Arvind Kejriwal, there is Tejaswi Yadav, there's Akhilesh Yadav. There are a whole lot of parties which are, and of course the left parties that are there with them. What do you think would have led such a large group of people? Do you think it's the lack of cohesiveness in the opposition? Because that is one, it's not that individually these leaders are not very popular. Individually, Congress has its vote bank, the left has its vote bank, however little. Tejaswi Yadav has his vote bank in Bihar. We saw that during the assembly elections, and we saw that looking at the crowds that are thronging his rallies even in the run-up to these Lok Sabha elections. So what exactly do you think could have gone wrong?
Okay, so see, in an election, broadly there are two sets of identities in India, that you can perhaps appeal to in the current format. So one is obviously the caste, which a lot of regional parties and I would say even in this poll, the Congress also perhaps resorted to. And then you have the, broad specific community-based appeal, which again, a lot of parties indulge in. Now, if you move one step further, the second order stuff, how do you get across that? You do that through socio-economic engineering. And in socio-economic engineering, what do you have to offer? It is generally schemes like free ration, like toilet schemes, like direct cash transfers to women, and you tend to create a new socio-economic constituency where there was none. Now, when it comes to field work, I mean, I have to doff my hat to basically, I mean, he's clocked some insane miles in this election, and he could perhaps talk about how women have shaped up as a vote bank of their own, in this election, and they are choosing to go whichever way they have to. And this is perhaps where, the opposition's narrative was found, weighed, measured, and it was found wanting. Quick reason why? Because again, it's a group of parties who do not, as of now, have a common minimum program or a set agenda. But an even bigger problem with them is that they don't have an alternative vision to offer. And so long as they will lack that, they will struggle. But, this is where the irony was there, that despite a pretty lackluster vision, despite faltering in terms of, what they had to offer, they were still able to, fight the fight, at least when it comes to the narrative bit. Perhaps it may not be so in terms of vote share or seat share at the end of the day, but it was a surprise to see them actually vying for, the national consciousness in a way which we didn't expect to.
Okay, I'm going to talk to you, Sutanu, about the women voters that he's saying. But Sandeep, I want to come to you with something, and then I will move on to the Kerala figures and then the other respective states, because I think we need to start changing these graphics, which are becoming pretty static on the screen now. But Sandeep, the question that I have for you is related to a press conference, or rather a meeting that the India Alliance members just had. And while these numbers are being talked about on most television channels today, the big numbers and almost all of them, predicting a sort of nobody is obviously saying 400 par for the BJP BJP, or many are not even saying 300 par. But look at the numbers for Kerala that are there on your screen. There seems to be gains for the BJP for the first time ever. That was one state that the BJP had not cracked at all so far. But look at that NDA, the Access My India Today alliance is giving them almost 2 to 3 seats, the NDA. I want to come to you with that, the gains for the BJP in Kerala. What seats could be going their way, Sutanu? Just a quick word from you, because you're privy to the sea voter poll, and then we'll go to Sandeep with that.
Honestly, I'm not privy to sea voter polls or data, because I've consciously stayed away from it. But again, as a reporter, I think it was going to be a tough contest in Thrissur, where Suresh Gopi, that movie star, is a BJP candidate, and Trivandrum, where Rajiv Chandrasekhar, the minister, is the BJP candidate. These two, I was at that time also certain that I will not be surprised if the BJP wins these two. The third one, I'm honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay, third one, you're not sure. Sandeep, what do you have to say about BJP's? I mean, it is all said that north and west, they've already, maxed out the BJP, so they're possibly going to lose some seats there. But the gains from the south was the big talking point throughout these elections for the BJP, and it seems that at least one exit poll that we have right now, which is Access My India Today, is giving them almost 2 to 4 seats in Kerala, 2 to 3 seats, Tamil Nadu, 2 to 4 seats again. So what do you have to say about that?
No, quite a few, not just Access My India, quite a few exit polls.
Yes, I'm talking about the graphic on the screen. Quite a few exit polls that we are seeing are giving BJP enormous gains in the south.
Enormous is in terms of vote share. I think BJP themselves were realistic in terms of seats. They had only said that they will probably open their account in Kerala, and they are going to again make some inroads in Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
The real change you will see is in terms of vote share. And I think BJP, everybody who studies them, they play it for the long term. You will, I keep quoting Mr. Modi in one speech in Parliament right after his taking over. He had said, "You can underestimate me in everything else, in economics and this and that, but you cannot underestimate my political judgment." So if Mr. Modi has spent such enormous amount of resources, and resources I mean time, in terms of holding rallies costs money, and in terms of trying to gain mind space in the south, they're doing that with a particular reason, including his current meditation in Kanyakumari. So they are really playing for the assembly elections, where you will see the change, the coming assembly elections and the subsequent Lok Sabha polls. But if they make this kind of beginning, even with 2 seats in Kerala, and if Tamil Nadu 1 seat becomes 2 seats, I think it'll be a huge psychological dent, which they're going to cause on not only the opposition mindset, the whole tag of BJP being a North Indian party. You will see that'll start changing as soon as their vote shares go up in the south. I think that is the biggest change they will see, just like it had happened in West Bengal some years back, from a 3-4% when they went to double digits and then went further up. That changed the entire complexion. So, it's very funny. Till one day you don't take BJP as into the reckoning at all. And then when BJP from 3 seats, they come to 65 or 70 seats in West Bengal assembly, you say, oh, they lost the elections badly. Now, nobody sees the other side of the coin, that from 3, they have come up to 60, 65. And this will also change, you'll find next time in the South. From considering BJP a soft party, not existing, when they get a few number of seats, they say, oh, at the end of the day, they lost. They could barely get so many seats. So that is the contradiction which I suppose everybody has as far as BJP. One last thing before I sign off, Aditi, I will say from here, though it's not a reflection. Certainly the NRI voter or OCI voter don't have any say in what's happening but one sentiment I saw, and I think that could have had a similar reflection in the Indian voters' sentiment. There were people here in the West who had earlier veered totally away from Mr. Modi and talking of alternatives, everything. Now, what I found is, barring some hardcore, people like the Raghuram Rajan or Kaushik Basu kind of people, there were some of these people who were veering away. Suddenly, I found they are seeing merit in Mr. Modi. I'm not talking of BJP, only because the utterances of Congress on economic front of Rahul Gandhi got them scared. They're saying they're moving back into a Luddite situation. And, one commentator in WHA wrote that if Rahul Gandhi does any of these, they'll reduce BJP to India to a Venezuelan situation and all. That's scared. And I think some of that, as I was mentioning earlier, when you try to do this khatakat, what do you gain? You try to shift that fence sitter. Instead of shifting the fence sitters, I suspect in many cases, Congress scared away the fence sitters who were willing to cross over and vote towards them. They also got little wary with these kind of rash statements. Thank you, Aditi. I have to quit. Rare day, when you find
please.
amateur.
Before you go, Sandeep, by the way, in both Kerala and Tamil Nadu, it is certain that the BJP alliance will win more than 20% of the vote share.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key, and that's what people need to really look at. Okay, thank you so much. I'll try and come back later.
Anyway,
Bye.
let me just go to Manu with that. Manu, in 2019, because Sutanu talked about vote share, the BJP could only secure 13% of the votes polled in, let's say, Kerala, for instance, and 16% along with, if you combine the the NDA votes polled. This time around, clearly that number should have, and we will get that data gradually, but that number should have gone up. And why do you think that number, would have gone up to see these kind of impacts, 2 to 3 seats in Kerala, 3 to 4 seats in Tamil Nadu? Because in Tamil Nadu also, again, last time BJP got just 4% of the votes in 2019. Now, to make a serious dent, which is the 3 to 4 seats we are talking about now, they would have at least had to poll 12 to 15%, right? So vote share has gone up in all these places.
For that, perhaps we'll have to dwell upon the history and go back to, let's say, 1960s. Right from the independence to the mid 60s, Congress was the default party of power because, it was the political party of the national movement. So somewhere, it had captured the imagination of the country, and it was basically, politics was all about Congress. And then, you had the another wave come in where we saw the communists and the socialists, in form of Janata Dal and its assorted variations, and regional parties emerge, through 60s, and this went on through the 70s and 80s even, one can argue. And by the 90s, this political setup had solidified to the extent that power became decentralized in India, and we saw an era of coalition governments. Now what has happened is that post the consolidation in the Hindi heartland, we are witnessing, ramifications, or let us say the waves, they are now touching the shores of the polities which were hitherto, untouched. And you are seeing voters in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu.
Okay, seem to be losing his connection a little bit. Yes, Sutanu, would you want to complete that point for him? Because I believe that was an important point he was making about the history.
Yes. So the Congress was completely a monopoly till the 60s. The monopoly started withering away, but it was still the dominant force till the late 80s. Then came the Mandal and Mandir movements. which saw the almost terminal decline of the Congress begin. And the BJP, while it gained significantly in Western India and Hindi heartland and Central India, it was a non-entity in electoral terms in coastal states ranging from Kerala to Tamil Nadu to Andhra. Now it's two states, Andhra and Telangana, to Odisha to West Bengal. So this election we are seeing the emergence of the BJP as a very, very serious and formidable force throughout the coast, right down from the bottom of Assam where Bengal starts to Kerala all the way. So that is
So that
the
big-
big ticket.
That big accusation on the BJP that it's a North Indian party, and the entire, even during the campaign it was played out, the North-South
So
divide.
that myth or that whatever you call it will be buried forever.
Yeah, because the C-voter numbers have also come in, C-voter AVP News, and they are giving 0 to 1 seats in Tamil Nadu to the BJP, and again in Kerala they are giving 1 to 3 seats to the NDA. So that's again interesting. I really wish there was a fly on the wall who could tell us whether what's happening in Thiruvananthapuram. Shashi Tharoor, this is his 4th consecutive time that he's contesting from Thiruvananthapuram, and against him was Rajiv Chandrasekhar, who's taking him on from there, and one would want to know whether one of these seats is Thiruvananthapuram one of those seats where something is happening. What do you think?
See, normally if you go over the last 25 years or so, the C-voter numbers are usually conservative. Very, very conservative. So you can make a guess from that, and I think certainly Thiruvananthapuram is in play, and there are very, very high chances that this time Shashi Tharoor will get a shock.
Okay, this time Shashi Tharoor. What about Tamil Nadu? Tamil Nadu as a state, we're seeing that of course C-voter has given them 0 to 1 seats there, but earlier we saw Access My India give them.
I told you
3 to
again,
4
C-voter is usually very conservative.
But let's talk about the state president, BJP president in Tamil Nadu, Annamalai, because he was the most talked about, and he's become one of the iconic faces that one associates with the BJP in the south now. Just like at one point Himanta Biswa Sarma became the iconic face that everyone associated with the BJP in the northeast. Annamalai's rise. He's a former IPS officer who was seen galvanizing the party in the state. His foot march, which covered, I think he almost covered 234 constituencies in the state, is also a lot of public opinion in favor of the BJP. He's been able to bolster, he's been able to cobble together. How do you see his role playing out in the days and months to come?
So I spent 4 days in southern Tamil Nadu, which is where Coimbatore and all these places fall, where he is the candidate, and he has become a kind of rock star in Tamil Nadu for a substantive number of people, and he has an incredible connect with the youngsters. And because he's a homegrown Tamilian from a backward caste and humble origins, that connect is very strong. And what I could sense when I was in Coimbatore and nearby places is that if the BJP had a much stronger organizational base and a much more active cadre base, then Annamalai would have definitely won Coimbatore. So if he loses, it will be only because the BJP is not yet built that formidable organizational strength which it has in other states of India.
Okay, Prime Minister Modi has just tweeted, and he says that I can say with confidence that the people of India have voted in record numbers to re-elect the NDA government. They have seen our track record and manner in which our work has brought about a qualitative change in the lives of the people. And he's called the India Alliance opportunistic, saying that the opportunistic India Alliance failed to strike a chord with the voters. They are casteist, communal and corrupt. So Prime Minister Modi is calling the India Alliance communal, and which I think I was listening to Shehzad Poonawala. He was speaking on one of these channels a short while ago, and he says ki vote jihad aap bole और हमको बोलते हैं कि when we say that don't do vote jihad, then you say that we are communal. You are the ones who are going ahead and calling for Muslim reservations and when we say no Muslim reservation, you say that we are being communal. What do you have to say about this entire polarization debate? The Prime Minister Modi calling the India Alliance communal now, that becoming a big talking point.
So let's be very honest, Aditi. Every single party in India indulges in communal politics and also caste politics. Every single party, and that includes the Marxists. So now, when everyone is doing it, it's a matter of your ideology and whom you support. So if you support the BJP and are a fan of Narendra Modi, you will say that, look, the whole thing was started off by the India Alliance guys when they said vote jihad, कि when Lalu Yadav said मुसलमान को आरक्षण मिलना चाहिए, or when Mamta Didi said कि ISKCON and other Hindu places are ruffian types, and if you are a Rahul Gandhi or Indi supporter, you will say that, look, Narendra Modi is using such useless divisive terms like Mangal Sutra chhin lenge,
I'm going to stop you there, Sutanu, because there you see on your screens, Karnataka numbers have come in, Access My India, giving it away to the BJP, the NDA once again, 23 to 25 seats. I mean, last time around Karnataka was a BJP sweep, and this time around it was being said that BJP will definitely lose a lot of seats. There seems to be some loss there that that Access My India Today poll is showing. Let's see what the other C voter, etc. there.
No, C voter is giving around the same numbers, 24 to 26.
24 to 26 seats for the NDA there. Sutanu, I think Manu is back with us. Let's go to Manu first. Manu, your take on these Karnataka numbers, please.
Very adroit alliance stitching, and I think well in time, because without the alliance, there could have been some particular seats that could have gone, perhaps not their way. But the key thing here to realize is that BJP has solidified some kind of a core electorate within Karnataka, and it's hard to dismiss them today as just a north based party. And second thing is the element of split ticket voting. It's kind of now crystallized within the voting psyche. So you have one element of election, that is the Vidhan Sabha polls, where Congress did exceedingly well, and then within a few months you have the Lok Sabha poll, and perhaps this will in all probability the results would look like, and it's clearly indicative of the fact that the voter is far more discerning, is far more intelligent than what's being given credit for. And that's why I'm kind of emphasizing that obviously there is the electoral arithmetic, but there is also the question of narrative. And I think the BJP and particularly Prime Minister Modi has solidified the narrative of being a welfarist prime minister who watches out for sort of those people who are on the margins and not really in the political mainstream, or are in the key positions of the administration or the politics, which most other parties which are either caste based or region based tend to be. So he's done some smart social engineering there to carve out a vote bank, and that is staying loyal to him through election cycles. I mean, even previous time and prior to that too, we are witnessing BJP doing well in Karnataka, and the presence is now kind of steady and perhaps beyond debate.
Okay, so the NDA, so we see the C voter numbers again giving 23 to 25.
26 seats.
26 seats to the NDA, the C voter numbers. There are also numbers coming in from Access My India, almost similar sort of numbers. And Karnataka, remember last time BJP had sort of had won 25 seats. Congress had won 1. This time Congress is also upping its tally from 1 to 3 to 5 seats, and which means that there have been some inroads. And remember, the Congress had also just sort of won the state elections there just in December last year.
Yeah.
So clearly,
but
do you think this could also be a, I know that voters you will vote differently in local elections,
that's what Manu was saying.
national
Exactly
elections. Yes, I know that. But Manu, would you see this as some sort of because they had promised a lot of guarantees and a lot of freebies in that election. Some of it has been given away, which was easier to give free bus rides, etc., as you say, pointed out, but the others have not yet been delivered. How do you see that? Do you see this as a referendum on the last few months of the Congress government in Karnataka, Siddaramaiah government too?
I would only say partly, because there is one element of promise and there is the another element of performing. So some of the promises have been delivered, and obviously for others they've fallen short, and there will be some natural anti-incumbency because of that. But largely speaking, the thing is that when people went to the polling booth for Vidhan Sabha post, they said, okay, here's the manifesto for which we are voting, and we are supposed to get this from this particular tier of governance. And when they go in for the Lok Sabha booths, they say, okay, here's the manifesto, and we're supposed to get some other, package for that tier of governance. So they're clearly differentiating between the two tiers of governance and voting accordingly.
Sutanu, let me just come to you with that. I was reading some articles and I was speaking to some people in Bangalore also. The entire guarantees that Mr. Rahul Gandhi went there also, and he promised a whole lot of things. The 8,500 in their bank accounts, kata cut, that entire thing. In fact, there was a surge in people lining up at the post offices in Bengaluru to open up their accounts. कि इसी में 8,500 रुपया हर महीना गिरेगा. So there was a lot of excitement over those promises, but clearly it's not translating into actual seat share. The vote share might go up, we will get to know, and vote share probably is going up a little, given that from the last time's one seat they are up to 3 to 5 seats, and given a margin of error of 2 seats plus or 2 seats minus, this might even go up to 7 seats for the Congress if you look at it optimistically. Do those guarantees seem to have made a dent? Clearly, because a large population seems to have bought into those promises.
See, there are 2 states in which the female vote, in the rest of the country, except of course Tamil Nadu and other places where BJP is not really a presence, in most states the female vote is swinging decisively towards the BJP because of all the welfare schemes. But I found it interesting that in West Bengal and Karnataka, the female vote was in a kind of dilemma, because they admire the welfare schemes of Modi and approve of him, but they are also getting significant welfare benefits from their local state governments, which is Siddaramaiah in Karnataka and Mamata Banerjee in West Bengal. So that factor is there, and of course in Bengal there is a difference because post Sandesh Khali, when I was there in Bengal, post Sandesh Khali, even the female voters are now disgusted with the TNC regime, quite frankly. But in Karnataka, the couple of seats that the Congress will win, you are saying maybe win 5, which I seriously doubt, is also because possibly the candidates picked up by the BJP have been wrong.
Okay.
Otherwise, in 2013, the JDS was in alliance with Congress, and the BJP had got about 52% vote share. This time, the JDS is in alliance with the BJP. So even arithmetically, the dice is loaded heavily against the Congress.
How about the JDS itself? This Prajwal Rabanna incident obviously becoming a big talking point during this election season, especially the latter half of the election season. And I think the second, Karnataka voted in 2 phases. The first vote was pre-Prajwal Rabanna incident, and the second vote happened post-Prajwal Rabanna accident. Do you see any lasting impact for the JDS per se in this election? Will it be a decisive election for the JDS?
See, JDS in any case is a party in terminal decline.
Yes.
It's become a very, very small regional party, and it really has no future. And by the way, I'm almost certain that Prajwal Ravanna is winning his seat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. That's an interesting one. Manu, you agree Prajwal Ravanna is winning his seat despite being
Yes.
on the run.
So we will have a Lok Sabha MP who is facing multiple sexual assault cases.
And on the run too. I don't know whether he said he's coming back.
No, he's come back. He's been arrested by the SIT.
Okay,
so
sorry, I missed out on that.
custody.
Yeah.
He's been arrested.
But really, JDS has no future. It's like, I would say, Bahujan Samaj Party in the long run really doesn't have much of a bright future. In Assam, AGP, which was once the ruling party, doesn't have a very bright future. And in the long run, you will see even in Odisha, post Naveen Patnaik, I see the BJD also kind of splitting and disintegrating.
All right, we also have some numbers which have come in from Telangana now. Telangana, another state, and after that we're going to move over to the very interesting state, Maharashtra. And Maharashtra, I want to link to really Karnataka, because everyone was saying that Karnataka and Maharashtra are the two swing states, and Bihar, of course, in this election, which are going to make or break the BJP's fortunes. Clearly, one of those states, Karnataka, seems to be batting in Delhi, in the BJP's favor still, given this exit poll. If it's right, if these exit polls are right, because as I said, we must always have a health warning sign with exit polls, because they often get it wrong, and we're going to talk about it in just a bit. But let's look at Telangana seat share, guys. The Telangana graphics, if the team can upload there, C Voter is giving, it's a neck and neck for the NDA as well as the Congress, 7 to 9 seats, and this is clearly what was being said. But what happened to TRS? TRS seems to have gone into a decline.
Almost completely wiped out.
Manu, your thoughts, because it was always going to be, it's become a direct fight in a southern state, a direct fight between two national parties, the regional party almost non-existent there.
You see, across India, there is this trend of the politics becoming increasingly bipolar. So you have on one side, you can call left of the center alliance, in the shape of the India alliance, and then you have, firmly right of the center, BJP and NDA. So what that is doing is that it's squeezing out the space for political parties, or entities that are really not here or there. So it's a reflection of the, I would say, polarization within the electorate. That's kind of, saying that, okay, we need to know who our people are, before we consider, voting for them. And then, then the other set of core voters says, okay, we also need to be sure about who our people are. And then really it just becomes about the floating voter. And it's very hard to sustain a political party on a long-term basis on just the floating voter. Everybody at the end of the day will need a core voter, to sort of serve as the base on which, you can generate a wave or a tsunami to win, or and so on.
Let me just ask our producers to flash the national numbers on the screen once again at this point, because there are reports that are coming in, and of course we're getting sound bites from respective agencies. Latest being Congress's Shashi Tharoor trashing these exit polls, saying we are happy to wait and see what the votes actually tell us, which is June 4th. Exit polls are deeply unscientific, and we all know this. Last year, the majority of exit polls got it wrong in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan. That's what he says. And so that brings me to the talking point about exit polls getting it wrong, because all these exit polls, as you can see, the final numbers, we are only showing the exit polls that have already declared the final numbers. What's your sense? How many times do you think this sort of an exit poll, all these numbers could be wrong at the same time? What do you think about the exit polls?
We are in the first past the post system, first past the post. So giving accurate numbers is virtually impossible. But getting vote shares, almost all credible polling agencies, almost all the credible ones, they get the vote shares usually right. Very rarely is the vote share very, very wrong. And the direction of the poll, which way the voter has, turned, who could be the likely winner, not the certain winner, the likely winner. Very rarely do polling agencies credible go wrong. I don't think, except 2004, any credible agency has gone seriously wrong in either vote share or in giving the general direction of the voters' mood. So
Got it. Okay. So, no, not terribly wrong. They can be marginally wrong here and there, and not all of them at the same time. You could say that maybe the Jan Ki Baat poll has got it wrong. They were giving by far the highest number to the NDA, which is 377. We still have to see how much the BJP is drawing out of that, but 377 for the NDA, which is in fact a step up from the 2019 numbers, quite a big step up from the 2019 numbers. Not 400 par yet, but yeah. So, but let's just go to Uttar Pradesh.
So I can give you numbers of C voters now.
Yeah.
392 numbers out of 543 have already been declared. Out of 392, NDA is in the range of 227 to 269.
Right.
Which means almost certainly NDA is heading for a victory. And
So-
this is without Uttar Pradesh numbers.
This is without Uttar Pradesh
Yeah.
number, and we just want to get on to UP numbers. Let's flash on our screens. Manu smiling so broadly. Manu, you're very happy that the BJP is winning this, are you?
No, actually, I'm happy for the polling industry because I remember the days 10 years back. Incidentally, that's when I met Sutanu for the first time. There was just huge skepticism, around polling, and basically polling industry was kind of considered equivalent to some kind of a voodoo profession, whereby everyone would come out with their own sets of numbers with no process or nothing. Whereas the reality wasn't that. It was just that the industry of polling in India was adapting and maturing. It was learning, in the learning phase. There were technological challenges, there were technical challenges about survey designs, and all of them were slowly overcome. To now, we are in a situation whereby we can say that in all probability, the polling agencies are able to pick the electoral direction right. The amplitude, that remains a question. And why it remains a question is a pretty simple thing, that the elections in India are a three-step thing. First, you have the narrative, which has to translate into a vote share. And that vote share needs to translate into a seat share. So at every step, there will be translational errors or gaps, as you may put it. And often different pollsters or analysts would have different idea or opinion about the same set of numbers, and that's why you may see some variation in seat numbers. But largely speaking, if you look at the directional trends, one can make out that there is some kind of uniformity. So the smile was from really because of my loyalty to the polling industry per se, not really a party, I may say.
All right. So, Manu, I get you. I was only pulling your leg. I'm not saying that you're particularly delighted about the BJP storming back to power or the India alliance making a dent. But, Sutanu, let me ask you this of Uttar Pradesh. We have Republic Bharat and Matri's results out so far. NDA at 69 to 74 seats. That's a very optimistic viewpoint. Realistically, you've traveled in UP a lot.
All across the state.
Exactly. So realistically, how do you see UP panning out? And I'm asking you your opinion because I don't want to go by the basis of one exit poll. The other numbers are still coming in.
See, in 2019, the BJP on its own won 62 seats, down from 71 in 2014. And I will be surprised, very, very surprised, if the BJP goes below 62 seats this time. And in all probability, the numbers might go up. There is no possibility, in my opinion, of the BJP going below 62, which was in 2019.
Okay.
And the other big take is that the Samajwadi Party has managed to possibly retain its strongholds in places like Etawah, Mainpuri, Azamgarh, Kannauj. These are some places where Samajwadi has put up a great fight and I think is going to win. Okay. So I am not very surprised by these numbers. Again, exact numbers impossible to calculate, but I am not surprised.
My friend Abhijit, thank you for joining. Abhijit has joined and I want to hear you. Really, look, you've been seeing the numbers, I'm sure. I need to understand what and please make it fun because these two gentlemen in the panel right now are just so serious that it's getting on my nerves now.
Look, for me, election predictions always been a bit like Mia Mittu picking Taj ka patta, right? So I get all my predictions wrong except the 2016 Trump election and the 2021 West Bengal election.
Yes,
So
yes.
that said, I do believe, first of all, that we're underestimating. I think they're all sort of conservative about the BJP numbers. I'm giving the BJP itself 330, and I'll tell you why. You go through all the vote shares and percentages throughout. This notion that somehow even a slight drop in the vote share, wipes out the government kind of thing is entirely based on one data point, and that's 2004. Now, what's happened since 2004 is, first of all, in 2014, there was an 8% increase in voter turnout, but the BJP went from about 73 million votes to 171 million votes. That was an increase of 100 million votes, almost a sort of 150% increase in the total vote. Now, when you look at that, just look at the difference now, Aditi, between the Congress and the BJP. In 2019, it became even worse because, see, in 2014, the Congress came down to 109 million, BJP 171 million. But in the next election, 2019, there was a 0.5% increase in voter turnout. But look at the difference in votes. The Congress vote went from 109 to 119 million, just 10 million votes increase. The BJP went from 171 million to 230 million. There are some insane numbers coming in here. So when, I was hearing all this nonsense that, the BJP is going to lose 100 votes, 100 seats. They're going to come down to 220, 230. They may not even be able to form the government.
Well,
I'm
that's
sitting and thinking,
Yogendra Yadav was giving out those numbers.
I didn't want to take names, but since you
Yes,
have,
yes, but that's all right.
yes,
But he was the one. So he was the most, and there was Prashant Kishore countering him all the way, saying ki.
the simplest thing out here is, how does you need a massive swing to differentiate between 119 million votes and 230 million votes? This is almost a 100% difference in vote share. You need massive swings to counter that kind of this thing. That was simply not happening. Now, let's assume, I don't know what the voter turnout in the last thing is, but even let's assume there's been a 1 to 2% drop in votes, voter turnout. Who's going to actually lose those votes? Is it actually going to be the BJP losing those votes, in which case it's a very marginal drop at that 1 or 2%? Or if it's the UPA losing that 1 or 2% of the votes, or the India Alliance as they call these days, I don't know what they're going to call themselves tomorrow, Samosa, Chutney, Pakoda, Caucus, or whatever. But whatever happens, even if they lose, if they're losing that 1 or 2%, you'll see that differential increase massively. I think what's happening in the polls that we're seeing, the poll of polls and things like that we're seeing right now, is everybody is being conservative in
But
predicting.
I'm going to interject you there. India TV has come out with its poll, and they are not being. They're the first
They're
exit
not.
poll.
They're
First
not.
exit poll, they have made BJP's 400 par, or the NDA 400 par. The
India,
BJP, we don't
yeah.
know the numbers yet. So 400 par ho gaya hai as far as India TV is concerned. So your complaint about them being conservative, the exit polls being
It's
conservative,
not a complaint.
is no
It's
longer
statistical.
valid.
You better hedge. Unlike me, who goes on Twitter and predicts, like, my current prediction is 300 seats for Mamta Banerjee, and TMC is forming the next government in the center.
Sure, why not? I doubt. Anyway, but I don't want to start on that conversation about Mamta Banerjee and your very popular avatar which you have right these days on Twitter/X, which I am a big fan of, frankly. But that's me personally. So we're not going to talk about that here. But your sense on why the opposition's message failed, Abhijit, because there is and my sense was, I'm giving you my sense and then I want your sense. My sense was, there is this one gentleman who's talking about and who's talking to an aspirational India, talking about a $5 trillion economy. There is another one who's talking about castes and breakdown and taking us back. Sandeep had sort of joined us a while ago, Sandeep Ghosh, and he was in San Francisco, and he said very clearly that the outlook about Narendra Modi is changing, and especially simply because there was this whole conversation in the campaigning about a caste census and a redistribution of wealth, which they found very regressive. Your take on this, and whether this is the reason that the opposition, which is not the India alliance, so to speak, is not being able to fire, or the other reason, in my opinion, is also because they were not cohesive enough. Everyone having their own separate guarantees and separate. There was a Kejriwal guarantee, and there was a Rahul guarantee, and there was a separate guarantee coming in from Mamata Banerjee.
So I agree with all of that, but I'm going to nuance it slightly, and I'll tell you why. In Delhi, for example, if you look at the vote percentage, even Congress and AAP coming together wasn't going to change those 7 seats. Because in the last election in Delhi alone, the BJP won 58% of the vote, right? So what I think has happened is 2 things. On one hand, Rahul's slogans were a hark back to Indira Gandhi's slogans. Now, the problem with Indira Gandhi's time was we were looking at a per capita income about of 4 to 500 US dollars per capita. When Manmohan Singh lost the 2014 election, India had a per capita income of 1,900 USD. Today, you have a per capita income of about 2,400 US dollars. Now, जो दृष्टिकोण होता है, जो सोच विचार होता है, it's very different when you earn $400, when you earn $1,900, and when you earn $2,400. And I don't think Rahul tailored that campaign to a $2,400 per capita income market. He was essentially trying to sell a Maruti Alto to a family that wants essentially I don't know, say a Mahindra XUV 700. Maybe not a Mercedes, but definitely a Mahindra XUV 700. So there was a complete market mismatch. This was on one side of the equation. The second side of the equation was, there are fundamentally things out there which Rahul said which went on alienating people. The problem is you don't create negatives during an election. Sonia Gandhi won the 2004 election by not opening her mouth at all. If somebody is pro-reservation or anti-reservation, Sonia doesn't open her mouth. Everybody believes that Sonia is on their side, and so both are open to voting for her. The problem with Rahul is when he comes out and takes a position. Taking a position is fundamentally polarizing. So you don't know how many people have been polarized by that who are just not going to come out and then vote for him. You always minimize your negatives.
Right.
The third thing was, I don't think he had an option other than to do that, because this is a classic case of a of a receding market share of a company at its last. Say the sinking of the Titanic. Nobody thought, can we take a blowtorch and seal up the gash in the Titanic's hull? Everybody was thinking, ki hum lifeboat mein jaake, how do we get off the Titanic? And so it's a sort of resource crunch kind of a argument here, where Rahul had to say the things he had to say just to retain the current vote, but that came at the cost of not expanding your vote.
Yes.
Right, and it is largely, I think, the youth of India, which they were, which possibly should have been attracted to Mr. Gandhi and his version of, politics, so to speak, that he espouses, did not really get enamored, because then again there was the balancing act to be done between the aspirations versus whether they want to change in terms of the government at the center. But having said that, I want to talk to you about the West Bengal elections, so please don't go away, because we have the numbers coming in from there. But I want to come to you, Sutanu, and just because
voter numbers have already come in for West Bengal.
yes, and we're just going to go to that, but I want to take the first response from Abhijit for obvious reasons on that. To you, I want to ask you about this, because there's Somnath Bharti.
He said
I will shave off my head, because he said all these exit polls are wrong, and in Delhi all the 7 seats are going to India Alliance. He's saying that I will shave off my head if Mr. Modi becomes PM for the 3rd time, mark my words. And he said, is Delhi all 7 seats will go to India Alliance? Even the sea voter poll, Sutanu, is not giving 6 to 7 seats Access My India is giving to the BJP yet again, and 0 to 1
for sea voter also.
so those numbers, see what
And I
numbers.
don't think you should take Somnath Bharti seriously. Really, he's a joker. So I mean,
Okay, so we're not taking Somnath Bharti seriously, at least for the purpose of this conversation. But if he did say that because he says that everyone is, fear of Mr. Modi does not allow exit polls to show him lose. And Manu, since you were so defending the exit polls just a while ago, I want your response on that. Fear of Mr. Modi is not allowing exit polls to show him lose. Hence, we need to wait for the actual result to be delivered on June 4th. And probably then, if these exit polls numbers do come true, then it will be the Election Commission's fear of Mr. Modi, perhaps.
I mean, see, it's but expected from let's say somebody who feels disadvantaged when it comes to the exit polls to deny the reality, and there will be a bit of cognitive dissonance, that would sweep in, because if you go by the narratives and the sycophants that were around a certain alliance, according to that subset, it was all honey and milk. But if you talk to the wider swath, and that is precisely what the polling industry does, you get to know, and you get closer to reality. And what's happening here is, if the allegation is that the pollsters are indeed afraid of, let's say, the ruling party or its leader, then dial back to the Vidhan Sabha polls of 2018. That was right before the Lok Sabha polls. And the BJP was losing in Rajasthan, I guess, Madhya Pradesh, and it wasn't doing well in Chhattisgarh. And the polls did show that. I mean, there was no question right at the eve of polling. When BJP wasn't doing well in Karnataka Vidhan Sabha polls, we did tell that. I mean, where's this question of being fearful? I mean, what is there to fear? It's a democratic mandate, and it will be out in the open. What can be changed by sort of not reporting the reality?
This is more in resonance, Abhijit, in terms of that whole dictator Modi image that has been a very strong part of the opposition's campaign.
he's a very funny dictator. If he's a dictator.
Yeah.
Okay, a funny
You
one.
know, this is the only dictator that I know of. Like, Aditi, I've gone and danced in North Korea, in Turkmenistan, in Uzbekistan, in Syria, in Iran, and I've been into Taliban-controlled areas of Afghanistan in Ghor and Ghazni. And trust me, I have never met a dictator who you can call a psycho on Twitter, and he doesn't throw, well, he's finally thrown Arvind Kejriwal in jail, but that's not for calling him a psycho and things like that, right? So, pura din, गाली का कुछ ना कुछ आलाप होते रहता है. It's almost like it's never ending. It's, if you listen to Parveena Sultana start, she takes about 1 hour for the alap before she even gets into the core of the actual raga. So it's even the gali galoch for Modi is in alap mode, and the poor man doesn't do anything. So, this is a very strange dictatorship, Aditi. But, this is one of those things where they will not give you an option at all. I can tell you right now, they are going to say that election commission big gaya. I've already heard that apparently Amit Shah has been calling up all the DMs and threatening them personally to, change EV results and things like that. I'm hearing all kinds of conspiracy theories on these groups happening right now. And they started off even before the exit polls started coming.
So, there's a bigger one. The military, it seems, has been called to surround the parliament.
Yeah.
So that the India MPs are not allowed to enter.
So this is going to be like Boris Yeltsin fighting off.
But don't you think, and Sutanu, I just want to come to you with that. This whole conversation about, blaming the EC, right now blaming the exit poll agencies, and then, of course, because it's not that the other side doesn't win elections in this country, and it's the same election commission which carries out. And how correct is it? Or do you think, because there were some discrepancies apparently, as the India Alliance, a lot of opposition leaders had talked about, the delay in giving voter data, and when the voter data, the voting turnout data was given, there was a marginal there was a 6% increase in the number of votes polled, and then those kind of allegations have come in. Do you think that lays any blame on part of the election commission? Could they have been more transparent in this election than they were.
In Hindi, there is a kahavat called "Naach na jane angan tedha." So most of the indie guys who are cribbing, it's basically that. But there is one aspect in which I blame the election commission, is this torturous, 2.5 month long process spread up to 1st of June today, because it's torture on election officials and security personnel. Dozens of them actually have died between 20th May and today.
Are you serious?
Yes, of heat stroke.
Yes, yes.
So why could not the election commission have done what it did in 2014, which is to declare results by 16th of May? So there I fault the Election Commission of India. But about being biased towards the BJP and all is utter nonsense, because this is coming from, the most talked about Election Commissioner of India is T.N. Seshan, right? He was, after retiring, the Congress candidate against L.K. Advani for Lok Sabha elections. And let's not even discuss Navin Chawla, very close to Sonia Gandhi. And let's also not discuss another election commissioner from Punjab, who immediately after retirement became a minister in the UPA.
All right. Yes. So those accusations, I mean, those things are there in public knowledge and for people to consume. But let's just move to West Bengal numbers, because I think Abhijit is anxiously waiting to weigh on those West Bengal numbers. Just see voter data. Khela hoye jacche. Okay, see voter data that has come in. Guys, let's flash them on the screen. That's Trinamool Congress, of the 42 seats, Trinamool Congress 13 to 17, BJP 23 to 27. That's a serious dent that they seem to have made there. And of course, remember, C Voter as is one of those conservative, so-called quote-unquote Abhijit agencies that are very conservative. Now, I want to see the Access My India numbers on this. Congress 1 to 3, and Abhijit, you can weigh in on this, please. What do you see is happening in West Bengal?
So, this is something that we've been noticing for a while right now. All the people who had gone there to cover things, they went on telling me, of the sheer dread they were feeling right now. I think what happened after the 2019 elections was Mamta decided that she wasn't going to leave anything to chance. And, the sort of brute force crushing that happened, it maybe worked till 2021. But it clearly wasn't, especially the massive deployment of CRPF and BSF in Bengal stiffened the spine. I think that is why you see that Bengal was staggered over all 7 phases of the election, precisely for that reason, because the law and order situation there was so bad. We saw in 2021 what happened. Those people coming into that poor boy's house, killing all the dogs, the rescue dogs he had, and then chopping him to bits. We saw those rapes and killing of BJP party workers and the exodus of those villages that had voted for the BJP and things like that. And they were very determined not to let that happen. So I think the BSF, CRPF just going there and stiffening the spine helped this a lot, number one. Number two, it's the way the BJP also played the entire Shah Jahan Sheikh episode. Because, in Delhi, the media picked this up as a sort of Hindu-Muslim thing, ignoring the fact that Shah Jahan Sheikh's 2 deputy rapists were Hindus. But there, it was seen as, a sort of urban chap coming and performing atrocities on tribal people. Now, remember, the tribal population here is very, very high. I think the way the BJP played it out also was this sort of atrocities on tribals happening out there. In Delhi, we heard the woman angle. There, it was a tribal angle. I think that resonated really, really deeply out there. I think that is what has really changed the situation in Bengal specifically. But I also want to caveat this saying, this was probably natural because we've accepted that in every other state, people will vote differently in state elections and they will also vote differently in central elections. So maybe this was also just a reinforcement of that trend as it comes to Bengal. But honestly, I don't think it could have happened had it not been for the 7-stage staggering and the stiffening of the people's spine to come out and vote.
Okay, Bengal, incidentally, Manu also had the highest voting percentage. It's always high, but this time also there's just a marginal decline from last year, from 2019. What do you see? What is the message that this is sending Mamta's way, this kind of a verdict, if it holds true, and we have the C voter numbers in front of us?
You see, even in 2009 election cycle, it was with much trepidation that we had, and after much, I would say, checking and rechecking of numbers, that we had basically projected a double-digit seat share for BJP in 2019. So if a C voter, like especially for Bengal, tends to be very conservative and careful about what it's saying. Not to say for other states, but because this is a very special state. It has a very active political culture. Like you said, it has a high voter turnout always, but also it's one of the states, whereby even field research can often be fraught with political risks. And you have to be careful about who you run into and what you end up asking. So from that angle, it's a tough state to poll. But it's also sort of a rewarding state to poll, because it sharpens your instincts like no other state does. And I guess if we are seeing or witnessing a BJP consolidation there, despite the prevalent political culture, then two messages are quite clear: that the eastern seaboard, which is Bengal, Odisha, coastal Andhra, and also add perhaps Telangana, would end up being a gain territory for the BJP this time. Sort of the message will flow down towards the south. And second thing is that the opposition is kind of losing the grip on sort of the states that had very deep cultural and political anchors that anchored them away from the BJP's political side. So if both of these trends sort of manifest and amplify in the future, then we are going to look at a national polity, which will be markedly different from what's been there for the past 20, 30, or perhaps even since independence, I would say.
So are you saying BJP's dream of a Congress Mukt Bharat?
Not Congress Mukh. See, incidentally, it's not really that BJP is going against Congress. If one were to say, it's TMC actually the main competitor here.
No,
And then again,
yeah, I meant the India alliance in this case. Congress and TMC were stubbing together, although in the state they are fighting separately.
But more so, in what one can call very, let's say, deeply culturally autonomous states. BJP has now been able to successfully breach that energy threshold and perhaps connect with the people. And this could have significant ramifications for national politics. This won't be only about Bengal.
Abhijit, this is despite BJP not really having a very strong face locally in West Bengal as a leader. I mean, versus Mamata Banerjee, Suvendu Adhikari is not really that big a face. Your sense, because are you saying that the cadres, so the RSS, BJP cadres have actually firmed up their roots in the state now?
I won't say they've firmed up their roots particularly right now, but what I will say is now there was unity of command under Suvendu Adhikari. Suvendu Adhikari wasn't seen as an outsider. You remember in the 2021 assembly election, there were 3 people deputed from the center who weren't even seen as Bengalis. Sunil Deodhar, Kailash Vijayvargiya, and that one more gentleman whose name I forget. But they came out there, they were parachuted in there, they didn't know the terrain, they didn't know how to play their cards, etc., etc., etc. It probably, and I remember because I was there at that point of time. And the one thing I sensed was, there was a lot of anger within the BJP voters, even before the election happened, not voters, the BJP rank and file, the cadre, against these 3, because they felt they weren't being listened to, they were being overruled quite often, and that's why I got that particular miracle, one prediction right scenario. But what's happened this time is there has been a unity of messaging, there's been a unity of campaigning, there's been a unity of command under Suvendu Adhikari, and that's a very good thing because you need to know who your general is to lead you to a victory. Remember this, I can draw an exact parallel with Karnataka. Sure, the Congress had two generals, but at least you knew who your generals were. The chief minister, I've forgotten his name. Do you remember who the BJP chief minister was who lost? Manu, do you? No.
Bombay.
Bomai.
But he, completely forgettable character.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Correct. No, the
I
same
want-
is the case in Madhya Pradesh, in other states.
Or Gujarat.
Yeah.
But I want to reinforce something that Manu said, which I found very interesting, which I haven't heard, which is this Eastern Seaboard thing. You know, that's a really interesting point, Manu. Thanks for bringing it because I never thought of it that way. You know, what's happened is the BJP doesn't do well against regional parties. They do very well against the Congress. But if the numbers for both Bengal and Odisha are right, I think the Eastern Seaboard is the opening up of the BJP doing well against two regional parties, the TMC and the BJD. And I think that's very, very significant, which is why it's going to have great ramifications for the rest of India, particularly possibly Tamil Nadu, if you want to extend that eastern coastal belt. I don't think Tamil Nadu yet, but it will ultimately happen, where the BJP has cracked the code for going after regional parties as well.
It's doing incredibly well in Odisha.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Very, very surprising numbers.
so let's put out those national numbers there. Odisha, you're saying, Sutanu, and I just want to talk to you. And Abhishek is joining us now, and I want to come to you, Abhishek, on what the exit polls are saying, because the Congress, we know, has now refused to send its nominees.
No, they are in most of the channels.
Yes,
Congress
but officially they put out a whip of sorts of not sending. That's what we heard.
They reversed it.
They reversed it later. Okay, so now everybody is in various channels. So now, I just want to come to you, Abhishek, on this, and then I'll come to Odisha and this whole Eastern Seaboard conversation that we're having. What is your sense of these numbers? Are you also going to say, like many of the Congress leaders have started tweeting and talking about, that this is one, flawed, all exit polls get it wrong, we'll wait for June 4th, that's one. Second is that exit poll agencies are scared of Narendra Modi. It's the Modi fear factor.
All of us
which
are
is
scared, huh?
Okay, all of us are scared, okay? All of us are scared of Narendra Modi, and therefore we don't dare to show BJP losing. And of course, come June 4th, if the numbers hold true, are we going to be going back to blaming the Election Commission, the EVMs, and everybody else?
So, honestly, if I look at these numbers, it goes against what I've been hearing from BJP insiders and supporters. Because what I've been hearing is that there was a lot of nervousness. Obviously, not that they won't form the government. I think everybody has to acknowledge that by and large, the feeling in the country, urban, rural, semi-urban, has been that they'll return. The question has only been, with how much of a majority they'll return. There was a lot of 400 par bluster when the first phase got underway. But the voter turnout figures have not been as promising as Prime Minister Modi hoped they would be. I think I said this on your last show as well. A low voter turnout traditionally favors the incumbent. But if the incumbent wants to secure a majority like never before, I don't think a low voter turnout is necessarily going to, get them over the line. So, are we in an Amrit Kal where people are so happy that they don't even want to show up to the polls? Or are the people so convinced that the BJP is winning that they're not showing up? Are the opposition voters not showing up because they've lost faith in the electoral system? What is it? We don't know. We really don't know.
Okay, what I heard from somebody in this very same studio a couple of days ago was that the opposition doesn't have so while nobody wants to go voting, okay, let's say no, they don't want to go vote.
It's incredibly hot.
Yeah, it's so hot, it's whatever.
आएगा तो मोदी ही तो, who wants heat stroke?
हाँ, तो लेकिन जो RSS BJP का organizational structure है,
RSS has been dormant.
Okay, dormant. Okay, BJP ka.
Honestly,
BJP ka.
I'll tell you my
Let me
point.
just finish my point and then I'll come to you, and then you can give your point. So they are there to take them from their home to the booth. The booth managers are ensuring that they go out and vote. Congress, though, that booth level management is not there at all. non-existent. You would accept that.
Yes.
So can we assume then that the voter is not interested in voting, or rather the voter is not interested in giving a mandate to Mr. Modi, because people are going out and voting for him, at least if these numbers hold true?
See, I'm Mr. Karge's neighbor, literally his neighbor. I live right next to him, and DK lives at the other side. And I've only come across BJP workers ringing my doorbell. So no Congress workers ever rung my doorbell. But what I can tell you, and it's a BJP bastion where I'm from, it's Malleshwaram, Bangalore North. But this time, that's not been the case. Neither the Congress nor the BJP worker has shown up at my doorstep. Congress though never shows up. BJP surprisingly has not shown up. In Uttar Pradesh, for example, I've been reading a lot of pieces, ground reportage, that the RSS Karyakarta, the RSS Swayam Sevak, is, while of course voting for the BJP, is not as enthused as he was before. And that to me explains the low turnout numbers, because what does the RSS worker do? Not only does he work for you on the ground, he also brings the voter to the voter booth. He doesn't necessarily say vote for the BJP, but they'll say vote for somebody who will not play caste politics, vote for somebody who has, Akhand Bharat, the interests of Akhand Bharat in mind. Basically giving you all the reasons you should vote for the BJP.
I think Manu wanted to say something.
Yeah. So if I just make my point is that the RSS worker has not been as active as in the past. In the UP22 elections, I worked closely with the Samajwadi Party in Lucknow, and the RSS played a pivotal role in the 2022 election. If the RSS worker had not played his or her role in the 2022 election, Akhilesh's 36% could very well have, helped him form the government, basically. This time, I feel that the BJP has overtaken the RSS. You had JP Nadda saying as much, not necessarily denigrating the RSS, but saying we've outgrown them. We have our own organizational structure, we have our own organizational strength. But the low voter turnout figures don't point towards the fact that the BJP worker has been as effective as the RSS worker in mobilizing the vote and bringing the voter to the voting booth.
At least better than the non-existent Congress vote structure, Congress, organizational structure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Let me just go to Manu. I don't want to weigh in on here. I want to just get Manu your sense on this. What were you saying?
You see, so the opinion polls, so there were several trackers, that were out there in the media that were being done, including by Sea Voter, about what the projected seat share for BJP, for India Alliance, for NDA, for India Alliance, and everybody would look like. And then all of that polling came to a halt because of the ECI, regulations, right on the day of the first phase. What happens after that? Floodgates. This time around, I've been going around meeting people in different worlds, in finance, in business, the whole, I would say, 360-degree sort of panorama. And there is an insane number of various data exercises being floated around. A lot of them apparently come right from the top, from I don't know, the highest offices, the highest mantrijis, the highest, pracharaks, and the highest presidents everywhere. And almost all of them have, one would give 400, other would give 200. One would say, oh, they are struggling. Other would say, okay, just forget it. Let's go and holiday. And there has been a very strident form of information warfare, dare I may say, and because obviously I'll defer to Abhijit over there. He may have more to expand on that. And recently we found out about certain interference, things that were brought to light. So there isn't this element, and which is being used to generate this cognitive dissonance about narrative being one thing and the reality panning out something else, and then people get confused. I hope Abhijit would have more to add to that.
Yeah, Abhijit, I just want to come to you with that. About this whole AI interference thing. This is, suddenly become a big talking point between yesterday and today.
Yeah. So, one of the things is, as much as we should be worried about AI interference, India's kind of protected precisely because of the fact that we're so heterogeneous. A narrative that sells in, say, Madras won't even sell 50 kilometers south of Madras in, say, South Arcot or Pondicherry. because it's the nuance, the language itself changes. Even within Madras, for example, there are three different dialects of Tamil that are spoken, four different dialects of Tamil that are spoken, and each one would have a different nuance, a different way of listening, understanding. Braj Bhasha is very different from Maithil, etc., etc., etc. And each one requires a very specialized kind of AI. And what I've found is that, especially with external interference and things like that, it is not deep enough in every single language to be able to pull that off. Will it affect a certain English speaking viewership? Sure. Will it affect a certain common Hindi connector language speaking nuanced viewership? Possibly, but not really. Because my take on elections has always been that, the campaigning does not change anybody's mind. What the campaigning does is, it's basically an audition where the local party branch shows their leader and their central leader ki we can bring so many people out to a julus or a party meeting or something like that, and it's a test of how many people they can bring out to vote. Now, what happens is, this is where, what Abhishek said is really important, because what ends up happening is, when in 2004, the RSS to BJP ratio was 1:1.5, as Nalin Mehta shows in his book. Today, the RSS to BJP worker ratio is 1:30. So, Nadda wasn't denigrating the RSS or anything like that. He was just stating facts. A 1:30 ratio of cadre is phenomenal. It's almost as if you can do 3 rotations of work of cadres. They can be 25% of your cadre can literally take 1 month, 2 months off and not be on election duty, and you'll still have more than enough. And this matches up with the fact that the Congress simply can't pay its cadre anymore, because losing power for 10 years, being out of power for 10 years at the center, losing so many state governments, you just can't afford to pay your cadre, and the cadres just disappeared. In places like Punjab, it's almost non-existent at this point. So there's, I never saw in what way or form the Congress or any of the other parties were going to be able to rectify the numbers on the ground problem. And if you remember, increasing the cadre base was the very first thing that Modi did in 2014. It was the expansion drive, which nobody understood what was happening. We were all looking at the celebrity folks joining up. The real impact it actually had was on the ground with the non-celebrity folks joining up.
All right, Abhishek wants to come in there. Abhishek, your sense, because what you said about RSS not being involved, now that's a completely different take that has been presented.
He's saying the same thing. He's saying the BJP is stronger.
Yes, not because they don't want the RSS. The RSS doesn't want to be involved, or the BJP doesn't want them to be involved. It's not that there's a problem there. It's just simply a matter of numbers.
See, the RSS worker and the BJP worker play 2 completely different roles. The RSS worker presents himself as apolitical.
Correct.
You have to understand that the RSS worker presents himself as apolitical. देखो, मैं देश के लिए काम कर रहा हूँ. मैं मोदी जी के लिए काम नहीं कर रहा हूँ. मैं भाजपा के लिए काम नहीं कर रहा हूँ. मैं देश के लिए काम कर रहा हूँ. He has his ideology. He runs his shaka, right? And he's apolitical. Now, when a BJP worker comes to you and says, "Vote for my party," and when the RSS worker comes to you and says, "Vote for your country," they're 2 very different things. What I'm going to tell you is the way I see it. Of course, Modi's coming back. I think there's been a realization even in the opposition that he's coming back. The best case scenario was Modi would need the support of the NDA allies to form the government. Clearly, the exit polls are not bearing that out. It looks like they will comfortably have a majority on their own if we were to take the exit polls as the gospel truth, as the final results. If the numbers pan out in the manner in which the exit polls are predicting, the opposition to Narendra Modi cannot come from a coherent, political, well-oiled machine like the BJP. That machinery simply cannot be created overnight. It cannot be created over 5 years. Prashant Kishore made a very good point. He's got a lot of bad press of late, unfortunately. But Prashant Kishore made a very good point. He said, don't interpret the fact that there is no political opposition as meaning there is no discontent.
Correct. There could be discontent.
There is discontent, but there is no organized discontent. the discontent is not organized enough to beat the BJP.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. So in your opinion, if these numbers hold, are they hold, or they are these numbers because of a lack of a cohesive opposition talking a similar voice, not Mamata Banerjee fighting in West Bengal on her own, being a part of the India Alliance nationally, the several other parties, Kejriwal saying Punjab mein hum saath mein ladenge, sorry, Punjab mein hum alag-alag ladenge, Delhi mein hum saath mein ladenge, can't be that cohesive. So clearly the blame has to lie somewhere, and I think we were talking the other day, Abhishek, that it's about also having different manifestos.
Can I just say about just look at Udayanithi Stalin's comment, where he says Sanatan Dharma must be eradicated.
Dengue, malaria.
Yeah. Now Abhijit is from Tamil Nadu, Iyer, Abhijit, and Bengal, I think, but he's an Iyer. I'm an Iyengar. So we're both Tambrams, and we know that the anti-Sanatan Dharma narrative has a lot of takers in Tamil Nadu. Anti-Brahmanism is very strong in Tamil Nadu, but that very same Rahul Gandhi has to come and win an election.
So he goes to a temple here, and
so the problem is, India, before conflicting ideologies could get along, the Khalistanis made an uneasy pact with the Kashmiris, who wanted, who were against the Indian state. Okay, you came under this umbrella where you had discontent against the ruling dispensation and you formed alliances. Today, the problem is what Narendra Modi has managed to do. I told you this on your last show as well. Is like, okay, one nation, a Hindu leader, a Hindu civilizational mission, a perpetual war that we are engaged with the non-Hindus of India, the Abrahamic religions. Now that is a very coherent ideology, and it has a lot of takers in the upper caste, and it has traditionally had the upper caste takers. Narendra Modi is the perfect prime minister, trained by the Brahmins of the RSS, with the lived experience of an OBC leader. His lived experience is that of an OBC with Brahminical training from Nagpur. So he knows how to appeal to the upper caste. He knows what to give the upper caste. The Ram Mandir is a huge issue for the upper caste, but he will combine that with appealing to non-Yadav OBCs. He will combine that with appealing to non-Jatavs. And where in Uttar Pradesh, he's managed to bring Jai Bhim together with Jai Shri Ram. So there's that old saying, Mile Mulayam Kashi Ram, Hawa ho gaye Jai Shri Ram. Ab Jai Bhim और Jai Shri Ram साथ में जा रहे उत्तर प्रदेश में. In Bihar, Narendra Modi has had a profound impact on the daily lives of ordinary Biharis. He is the first prime minister to say we have to build toilets. He is the first prime minister to say we have to build houses. The rations. I said this on your last show, and the exit polls are bearing it out. The Modi factor is more prevalent in Bihar because the Biharis' life and existence has been one of struggle for roti, rota, kapda, makan, pani, kuch nahi hai, bijli, nothing. So, how do you combat somebody who is loved and beloved by the upper caste and is also has the support of those who say Jai Bhim? He has the support of those who say Jai Shri Ram.
Are you saying that the opposition has no hope in hell to, get past the Modi factor for the BJP, not just this time, 2024, but also 2029 if he's still around?
I'll give you I'll just give you one line because I don't get to speak on the other channels I go on. I'm getting some time to speak. So what I'll give you one line, which is, नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान खोलने का कोई फायदा नहीं है. अरे भाई, नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत कौन खरीदना चाहता है? अब मोहब्बत की बाजार खोलो.
मोहब्बत की बाजार को
नफरत, अरे मोदी जी के दुकान में जाके तुम मोहब्बत बेच रहे हो, तो अपने एक बाजार खोलो और मोहब्बत बेचो, और मोदी जी को अपनी नफरत की दुकान खोलने दो वहां.
अभिजीत, मोदी जी की नफरत की दुकान, I think because this is completely the Rahul Gandhi factor, and I think I want to listen into your reaction on this.
Tell me how many elections have been won by speeches, Aditi? The Nafrat ki dukan we talk about is 2-3 speeches here and there where he was paraphrasing what the Congress used to say. Now, you tell me, if I'm somebody on the ground, I think the big election winner this time is Ayushman Bharat. Because, I've had people from my household, people, my domestic help, who have gone back and told me we don't need money for treatment because it's covered under this. They've taken their thing. They just need to go wait one day outside their local MP or MLA's house. It gets signed off and the funds get sent immediately. You get that. You get a toilet. You get electricity. You get running water. Honestly, what are you going to vote for? I think that delivery speaks a lot. Second, we need to remember Modi is the crystallization of the Hindutva idea. Hindutva, if we take it, say, political Islam, which came about because, Ottomans and Turks decide to part own ways. They didn't see it as Islam at the end of the First World War, and the Ottoman Empire collapsed, which is where, Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb come up, where Islam is more important than your ethnicity. Look at Hindutva as something very similar. That, your being a Hindu is much more important than being a Jatav, a Dalit, a Brahman, whatever. And Modi crystallizes that thing perfectly. So, the message has always been an anti-caste message. Remember, Advani refused to have anything to do with Karpatri Maharaj once he found out about Karpatri Maharaj's views. There is a whole bunch of neo-Karpatrites who are used as the sort of they are shown in Western academia as the quintessence of Hindutva, when in fact they are the absolute antithesis of Hindutva, right? So where I see Abhishek's contradiction actually coming out, which is the anti-caste message will not be able to sell, is in fact in Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu saw something very unique happen, which is the so-called emancipation that happened was just replacing Brahmins with the middle caste, the Tevars and the Gaundars and things like that. Okay, the Vaniyars and people like that remain oppressed. The Dalits, scheduled tribes, all of that remain oppressed. In fact, you can actually argue that oppression went up. In many ways, the Periyarist movement was like the Magna Carta. People believe that Magna Carta liberated. It actually set back peasant and serf rights in England by about 200 years, which is what Periyarism did to the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in Tamil Nadu. Now, in order to win Tamil Nadu, you have to play the caste game. I cannot see how an anti-caste messaging like Hindutva will really score much ground there. Now, if you bring up the Tamil Nadu numbers, it says 2 to 4, and I'll tell you why. Both Coimbatore, where Annamalai contested, I do believe Annamalai is a possible future prime minister, definitely a future chief minister of Tamil Nadu, and Pon Radhakrishnan, who is a union minister, I think. I don't think they're going to win their seats because their booth management was shocking. And in both their constituencies, especially Annamalai, it wasn't just the DMK out to get him, it was also the ADMK out to get him, right? The two that they may end up winning at the lower end, I might be wrong, but the two that may end up winning is TTV.
AIDMK is going to win Coimbatore, 100%.
Yeah.
It's their best.
TTV Dinakaran, which is Shashikala's nephew, the one, where the marriage that broke the first the first Jayalalitha government, and OPS, the former ADMK chief minister, who's now contesting as an ally of the BJP. I think those will be the two seats that you win, which is again a sort of a Tevar belt victory sort of thing. I don't know how they're going to reconcile Hindutva with the caste politics that need to be played in Tamil Nadu.
No, they are playing out and out caste politics in Tamil Nadu. See, basically, the AIADMK has become a Gounder party. I mean, I don't want to bore the North Indian viewers with...
because the first, unfortunately, Abhijit and Abhishek, both of you've come in the second half of the show. The first half of our show
What is the Tamil Nadu numbers?
The Tamil Nadu numbers are there on your screen, sir. Access My India today is giving them 2 to 4. The NDA, AIDMK, not very much. But the 2 to 4, we were talking about the fact whether it could be Coimbatore. But from what I hear from you, no. But
AIDMK, you should have allied with AIDMK. If they had just allied with AIDMK, you would have had so many more seats.
Just to push back there, I think Annamalai was quite clear that unless they stood up on their own two legs, the identity would constantly be
linked to one or the other regional party.
Yeah, that sort of dependency needed to end at some point. But I do think, irrespective of the number of seats, what the BJP is going to get this time is a very significant vote share, a double-digit vote share in Tamil Nadu.
Double-digit vote share in Tamil Nadu, but last time it was just, I think, 4% or something, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that was because it was a very minor junior partner of AIDMK
Okay.
and contested very
and
closely.
therefore the so let me just taking the entire eastern seaboard conversation forward, let's just put out the numbers for we put out the numbers for West Bengal. We also want to put out where we see significant gains for the BJP there, but also in Odisha now we see significant gains. And Sutanu, since you are from the state, I want to hear from you on what has changed. Is it because from that completely Naveen Babu centric electorate, what has changed this time around?
So two things have happened. First is many panelists before this and in many shows have said that the voter is now started differentiating between Assembly and Lok Sabha. Okay, and Narendra Modi has always been very popular in Odisha, but the party cadre in coastal Odisha was extremely weak, virtually non-existent, almost like Tamil Nadu. But over the last 10-15 years, the BJP has gradually, consistently built up a very strong cadre base, even in coastal Odisha. It was always strong in that tribal and western Odisha, which borders Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, and other places. So this time, what has happened is that is beginning to pay off, like it has paid off in so many states: Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Assam. Once the cadre reaches a critical mass, then the BJP starts winning a lot of seats. Second is people are no longer sure of for how much longer Naveen Patnaik will rule. He's ailing, he's frail, and there's tremendous anger in Odisha against VK Pandian. They think, he and a couple of bureaucrats have completely hijacked the government.
This video of Pandian controlling his
I don't have the
hands.
numbers, but I think Naveen Patnaik will still comfortably win the assembly elections.
The assembly elections, Naveen Babu, obviously we don't have the numbers yet of the assembly elections. We've not really focused that much on that. We'll separately talk about that in our show tomorrow. But having said that, right now today the national picture, so far we've seen most pollsters giving 300 par to the BJP.
In Odisha, that's it.
So yeah, 1 to 3. That's it. Exactly. But 17 to 18 seats for the BJP in Odisha. Of course, nationally, every pollster giving more than 300 to 350 seats to the NDA, and of course, India TV going the whole way is giving the NDA a 400 par number, as we've all seen in the national numbers that we've seen that have come in so far. Having said that there was this whole conversation about the numbers, because in the north and in the west, BJP has people said that the NDA, the BJP has sort of maxed out. People are going to that the numbers are going to shrink there, but those gains will come from the east and the south, and those numbers, the gains have come from the east and the south, or at least if these exit polls are to be believed. Abhijit, your sense of where this is going, the entire eastern seaboard conversation that Manu sparked off, but I want you to talk about West Bengal, Odisha, and of course the south, and what would this mean for forget 24, for 2029 for the BJP, because they're just increasingly picking up stuff as they and going down the states, and the constant banter ki ye North Indian party hai, Hindi speaking states ki hai party, that will no longer be a conversation now.
So the strange thing is, let me just focus on Tamil Nadu for a second, and I'll tell you why. Tamil Nadu was always the outlier in that it was the first state to have a regional party, right? Based on the Periyarist idea. The CPI was never really a regionalist party. It was more of an ideological opposition to the Congress, really. But Tamil Nadu was the first one to have that. The rest of the country has generally gone with the sort of national trend. The issue has always been building up the cadre, as I think Manu or Abhishek or Sutanu just said. Now, the problem is you can't just build up your cadre anywhere at any given point of time. Where you're already strong, you can accrue cadre slowly, 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 and train them up. But you have to follow something called an ink blot strategy, where you drop ink on a piece of blotting paper a bit by bit, and slowly it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and that is where it gains that critical mass. Now, it was done with Karnataka, which was the first part of the southern incursion. Now it's been done with the East. The East has succeeded much more so than the South. I think the South will take a significantly longer time to get that ink blot strategy implemented out there. And I think Tamil Nadu will actually be the last bastion. So, for
Okay.
all that hashtag proud to be South, you'll actually see a proud to be Tamil hashtag in about, say, 10, 12 years' time. And even that, hopefully, I'm praying someday to all the higher gods, that too will vanish.
That too
Hopefully.
will vanish. But let me just come to you and Sutanu, and talk about this entire this trend that we've not talked about Maharashtra at all. Maharashtra, very interesting figures as far as the exit poll is concerned. Ipsos News 18 giving NDA 32 to 35 seats, India Alliance 15 to 18, others 0. Remember, last time the NDA, of course, was at a much higher figure than this. It had, I think,
41 plus
42,
one.
yeah,
41 plus
42,
one.
42 out of the 48 seats. And so India Alliance, this vertical splits in both the Shiv Sena and the NCP, and I don't know, every other party, I can't even remember their names now, the new ones. All the splits that have been happening in Maharashtra and all the chaos that Maharashtra has been seeing, not working to BJP's advantage. Now, the one state where people said that they will lose, the three swing states people spoke about prior to these exit polls. One was Karnataka, where the exit poll numbers keep BJP at almost a similar level as 2019. The other was Bihar, again almost a similar number as 2019. But Maharashtra, there seems to be a dip in their tally.
No, C voter is giving approximately 24 to each
Right.
in Maharashtra.
So a dip in their
So
tally.
it's
right.
a big dip. It's a
Yeah,
very, very
yeah.
big dip. And beyond the numbers, I spent about a good 8 or 9 days in Maharashtra, from Vidarbha to Kolhapur to Aurangabad to, Bombay to everywhere. Baramati, I spent a day in Baramati. The overall sense was that virtually all the voters are completely fed up and disgusted with all the parties. They are sick of this, this split, this guy joining this side, this guy doing this.
Yeah, it's been
They are
going on.
completely fed up, and which is why you will see the Maharashtra turnout was also very low, significantly lower. And while the BJP has not lost much, I am pretty sure when you go deeper into the numbers, the Eknath Shinde Shiv Sena and the Ajit Pawar faction of NCP,
NCP.
they have lost big time. They have lost big time.
This is just the appetizer. In Maharashtra, the main course is coming in November.
In the assembly election.
In the assembly
Yes,
election.
absolutely.
And I think, look, the thing with the two Gujaratis who run India, the four actually, but the two political ones, is that the thing is they are course correct. They're excellent at course correcting. All efforts are going to be made to bring Uddhav back into the fold. All efforts are going to be made to unite Dada with Sharad Pawar. And Eknath Shinde, I think, can be discarded. I think the performance in the Lok Sabha election will determine Eknath Shinde's future.
I think they'll do very badly.
They'll do very badly, as the pollsters say. And the big question is what happens to Devendra Fadnavis. What they do with Devendra Fadnavis will determine whether Uddhav returns to the fold or not, because Uddhav cannot stand the sight of Devendra Fadnavis. So Fadnavis can always be accommodated in the center if that needs to be done. So the exile of Devendra Fadnavis is a very real possibility if Uddhav has to come back into the fold. My sense is Uddhav might come back into the fold. Sharad Pawar has to secure the legacy of Supriya Sule. It's the same thing with Kamal Nath. What is happening to these legacy politicians is Narendra Modi sabko kha raha hai, na? He's finishing everybody off. So for Kamal Nath, it's about Nakul Nath. He wants to secure Nakul's future. Sharad Pawar wants to secure Supriya Sule's future. You have to understand, we are a very family-based country, right? It's about, if I have worked all my life to build a party, and now that party is called Sharad Chandra Pawar National Congress Party. I mean, literally there are two factions of the party that you started. The same with Uddhav, the party that his father started. At some point you have to accept defeat, and that's what Narendra Modi has done. Today, the English-speaking elite of the country is completely marginalized thanks to Narendra Modi.
But would you blame that? Abhijit, I'm going to come to you with that question. Would you blame Narendra Modi for this, or would you blame the other side?
Credit. Depends on perspective.
Because that's what when you say that's what Narendra Modi has done.
See, what happened?
When you say something like that,
there was a convention that there are certain red lines you didn't cross in politics. You wouldn't attack your opponent's health. For example, he has done that in the case of Sonia Gandhi. He's done that in the case of Naveen Patnaik. And a Naveen Patnaik who has repeatedly bailed you out. And Modi has a very expansionist agenda in his third term. One nation, one election is at the very top because he is sick and tired of losing Karnataka in the assembly election and winning Karnataka in the Lok Sabha. Now in Odisha, he is going to lose Odisha in assembly and he is going to win Odisha in Lok Sabha. So Modi's grand plan for 2029, you might have a 25-phase election that runs for 6 months, one nation, one election. I have no idea how it's going to work. Okay. But he wants to campaign, and Modi understands he can't keep campaigning, right? So he says one nation, one election. Now, if you want one nation, one election, it's going to entail 15 amendments to the constitution. Several of the amendments will have to be ratified by the states. You will need the support of people like Naveen Patnaik. But outright attack on Naveen Patnaik's health, the genius of the two Gujaratis is they will go to Orissa and attack a Tamilian. And then they will go to Tamil Nadu and attack a Sri Lankan. They will say, he will say, Guspetiya ko Mangal Sutra de denge. फिर आके बोलेंगे हिंदू मुस्लिम तो मैं कभी नहीं करता हूं. So they are a bundle of contradictions and they don't seem to be caught out by it just yet. So one nation, one election becomes very easy because it's one man, one message, one ideology. But if you want to achieve one nation, one election, I would argue that even these numbers, as amazing as they look, it's not going to be so straightforward. Number two, a census has to take place, and after that census, you're going to have delimitation. Please remember, Central Vista has been built. The new parliament has been built, keeping in mind the expanded seats in parliament. Uttar Pradesh's Lok Sabha tally is going to go from 80 to 120, and Kerala is going to lose a Lok Sabha seat. And why is the South going to be penalized? The South is going to see very marginal increases in its Lok Sabha seats because we have controlled our population. You have controlled your population and seats are allocated on the basis of population. They have been frozen since 76, but in 2026, the plan is to redraw the electoral map. And let me just say, the South is going to lead the fight against that redrawing of the electoral maps. Will Chandrababu Naidu, your ally, support Andhra Pradesh being further marginalized?
Now that is the question. These are, you've listed out what A, he's coming back for the third term, B, that he's going to do X, Y, Z, C, extrapolating that, will your ally then, now ally support you then when you do make
the monster changes? Is here. How do you tame the monster? That's the question.
How do you tame the monster?
That is the challenge for the opposition.
Abhijit, I wanted to take that please. Do you agree with what he's listed out, what Abhishek has listed out, and the list of things first that Mr. Modi is going to do? It's like you're clairvoyant.
One nation, one election committee report is ready.
I'm just talking about you, listing out what all he's going to do, marginalize the South states, etc., etc. Please.
I think the first few things, I think this, if you go by what happened in Gujarat, the first term, nothing happened. The second term, lots of reforms happened. The third term, galloping reforms happened. And that was all economically oriented. I think they're very clear that manufacturing has to get a boost in the third term. If you remember, it started off with wanting to boost manufacture with the Make in India. Make in India, nobody remembers the Make in India line anymore. God knows what happened to that. But it got sidetracked with this notion that somehow services and not manufacturing can lift a nation. You see, services help lift a nation that has gone through manufacturing. Otherwise, it remains very low-level services which don't really add much to your per capita income. They've realized that they need manufacturing, which is why I think the first thing you're going to see is a whole lot of regulatory reforms. I don't think one nation, one poll is anywhere near their top priority right now. It is going to be regulatory reforms. Uniform civil code, I certainly think so. But I also want to push back on this idea that the BJP plays against a Tamilian in Andhra and things like that. Remember, the one doing that
Odisha.
was the Shiv Sena in Maharashtra. They were the ones that used to beat up all of us Kala Kala Madrasis and kick us out of there. And suddenly they became the great protector of Kashmiri Pandits. They did. I mean, Bal Thackeray was probably the only person that looked after and gave scholarships to KPs when they got kicked out of Kashmir. So I don't think the BJP actually does those contradictions. They're very uniform. My complaint with the BJP sometimes is that they don't do those contradictions, like we saw in the case of Tamil Nadu, where they don't play caste. They certainly don't play it effectively. They may be trying to, but the core ideology always holds them back. It's something, playing caste politics is something that really holds back. They're very good at caste coalitions, though. They're very good at bringing, they probably, I don't know if they learned this from Mayawati, but bringing together Brahmins and Dalits. They probably learned it from her. They're very good at it. The last thing I want to push back is with something that started off the conversation between Aditi, you and Abhishek, which is that, Modi is to blame for this. Modi is not to blame for this. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh are to blame for this, if you want to call this blame, because this is what an aspirational India looks like. You're not going to have an elite sitting in drawing rooms. I grew up in Chanakyapuri, both my parents serving in the government of India, smoking cigars and single malts and whatnot. That is not representative of India. Narasimha Rao created that entire middle class overnight, which was much more self-assured. It did not seek validation from outside. That has welled up today. It is that great democratization of disposable income. The middle class, not caste, because all the castes were included in that middle classization. And that is what has become the backbone, the aspirational backbone of the BJP. I don't know how we say it's to blame, because I think that's a good thing. Countries will always go through, there will be a very low level subsistence narrative when you're low income. You become much more nationalistic between about $2,000 to $15,000, and you go crazy after you hit about $35,000-$40,000, and you go woke and broke.
So, no, I just wanted to say I didn't use the word blame. That was Aditi's. Yeah. No, but one thing I will say is the Congress and the opposition misunderstand India's aspirational class today. What he says, there is a point. When the aspirational Indian sees the display of wealth by, say, an Ambani at the pre-wedding festivities in Jamnagar, the Congress Latvians elite, with its romantic socialism, which was ingrained in them by the Nehruvian education that they were all subjected to, would say, oh, look at this obscene display of wealth. Whereas the aspirational Indian will say, someday I also want to have a pre-wedding for my son or my daughter.
And that perhaps reflects on the numbers that you see on your screen. Sutanu, maybe you want to come in, because Sutanu and Manu are between Abhijit. Abhijit, I'm going to come to you. Just give me 1 minute.
Just one quick point.
Okay, there's a... So Sutanu and Manu are probably...
To add to what Abhishek said, you remember the big 600 carat and 500 carat trousseau, that emerald trousseau that Neeta Bhabhi wore? They are copies of that now selling on the streets all over.
178.
Yes.
Yeah, with Neeta Bhabhi's photo on it. If that isn't aspirational, you can have all of us saying, oh my God, this is so gauche, it's so vulgar, it's so low class. But all those people like, Neeta Bhabhi ne wo pehna hai, mere ko bhi pehna hai. Main
This
agli
is
Neeta.
the Gujaratification of India. The Gujaratification of India is complete.
One step forward, Gujaratification of India. But look at the numbers for Bihar, Access My India. NDA 23, and this is the aspirational India.
Yes.
This is in Bihar, where we started out by saying that these are the guys who do not have, they want to become better. They want, and unemployment is such a huge issue, as was witnessed in, the rallies of Tejasvi, of everyone. But yet, this is...
Unemployment has been an issue since Manoj Kumar was making movies.
Yeah.
50 years ago.
Since the first exit poll in 57, it has been an issue.
But I'll add to this, across India, I used to ask one question to a lot of youngsters, wherever I met them. Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Mizoram to Gujarat, Barmer, Rajasthan. What is your opinion about Ambani and Adani? Because that's been the Rahul Gandhi rhetoric for a large part of the campaign. 90% of the youngsters, they say that we want to become like Adani and Ambani.
Yeah.
But 10% are there who kind of despise them. That
Obviously.
socialist or whatever, education.
Caste
or
also and class also. See, I will just say one thing. That to take Abhijit's point on economic reform, Narendra Modi is smart enough to know that no Prime Minister has been able to solve our ills fully. So for him, economic reform is plan A. But that plan B is political reform. Because if inflation and unemployment remain problems in 5 years.
I'm happy that you say that that is plan A.
Of course.
And that, because that's what when you spoke about it for the first time.
I'm just making a nuanced point, which is he needs plan B. If he's not able to solve the unemployment problem, we are now the world's most populous nation. Our workforce is growing, right? Or should I say workforce? I'm saying those looking for jobs is only growing. I don't think he's going to be able to solve inflation or unemployment by 2029, or for that matter, poverty. Right? We are maxed out as a welfare state.
Exactly.
But the political reform, that is one nation, one election, mark my words, this is going to be the most contentious reform. One nation, one election will ensure that Modi only has to campaign once.
Okay, let's go with plan A first. You're saying that Modi will not be able to solve it whatever economic reforms he brings in.
Yes.
Do you think 8,500 khatakat will solve it?
If Narendra Modi is winning this election, it's not because people believe that he has been great on the economy. It's not because people believe he has solved inflation or unemployment. It's because people believe Rahul Gandhi and the opposition is incapable of solving those problems. And if not incapable, at least Narendra Modi is best suited to solve the problem. I dislike Modi, tremendous dislike for him. But even I have to acknowledge today that Modi is best for India in 2024. And I welcome 5 more years of Modi, because 15 years of anti-incumbency, hopefully, if you can't beat him in 2029, then he's going to pull a Nehru and die in office. So, you're going to have one chance in 2029, uske baad, no chance.
Okay. Abhijit, you want to come in there?
I think...
and Manu, I'm coming to you after this, sorry.
I kind of agree with Abhishek, but let me just give you variations on a theme on this. Modi is like a shark. He needs to keep swimming or he'll sink. And he knows that very, very well. So, if you focus on manufacturing, why focus on manufacturing? Because we've seen the way the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council and all the economic advisors, they're very sharply pivoted towards a line that manufacturing is a sine qua non. There will be no services. It has to be manufacturing growth, number one. For that manufacturing growth to happen, it's not as simple as saying, "Bhai, Bill Gates आएंगे और मैं डोल बजाऊंगा और हाथी आपको रिसीव करेंगे एयरपोर्ट पे and आप investment लाओगे." No, there have to be regulatory reforms. There has to be labor reforms. There has to be land reforms. Not the kind of tenancy reforms that were passed off as labor reforms, but real land reforms. Because one of the biggest levels of tenancy right now is this changing land use. That is where a lot of the bribery of the civil services goes into. I'm in Bangkok right now, and I went to a Michelin 2-star restaurant called Ga, and the proprietor there, Garima Arora, she was telling me, yaar, idhar restaurant kholne mein. Imagine the Indian Michelin 2-star restaurant, but it's in Bangkok, not in Delhi. Wow. Because it took her exactly 4 days to open that restaurant here, all the paperwork, everything. In India, you're lucky if it takes you 6 months. It'll most likely take you a year and a half to get it. The regulatory burden is immense. And even there, you will not be given regulatory clearance. The regulation will ignore it and pretend nothing has happened so that they can extort you later on, like that hoarding collapse that happened in Bombay, like the Rajkot gaming fire, etc., etc. They turn an eye. So all of these need to be sorted out. Police reforms, judicial reforms, all of these. But I don't think this term will be that fine-tuned for a certain reason, because sometimes they get their reforms wrong. The new education policy being a classic case. You want problem solving and quality education. Bhai, teacheron ki औकात देखिए तुमने. टीचर खुद प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं कर सकते हैं, वो कैसे बच्चों को प्रॉब्लम सॉल्विंग सिखाएंगे भाई?
Fair point.
So-
Fair point.
so
Let me bring in, yeah.
policy done by all these, big five consulting companies, JP Morgan and things like that. It uses a lot of jargon and buzzwords. Substance में करो.
Fair. Okay. All right. Substance nahi hai, jargon ke. But overall, final analysis. I just want to bring in Manu. Manu, if these numbers hold, first of all, do you think these numbers will hold? You are a avowed believer of exit polls. A lot of people don't believe in exit polls. Congress and the India Bloc definitely doesn't believe in exit polls as of today, at least right now. If these numbers hold, how do you see the next few days panning out? Is there going to be, because we've seen it before, attacks on the election commission, on the process of these elections? We've had this conversation before. Sutanu had a point of view on this. What's your point of view?
Okay, see, the first question about being a believer, I would say polling is fundamentally not about being a believer, it's about being a seeker. You have to ask questions, you have to seek questions. You may get it wrong. And
I'm losing your voice unless...
is it fine now?
Yes, it is. Please.
Okay. So polling industry is a lot about being a seeker rather than being a believer. You have to ask questions. You have to tease out insights from, empirics of what a society is composed of. We may get it wrong. I mean, as with any other profession, including, people in charge of often, life and death situations like doctors. So, that error margin will always be there. But directionally speaking, there are a lot of fine brains who've spent years, if not decades, in the heat and dust of India, and often going to places, which most people would not even have heard of, and, conducting their fieldwork. And if all of those fine minds, I mean, are coming to a consensus on the direction, okay, let's say there might be some question marks around amplitude of it, that whether this will be 400 par, 350 par, or only 300. But so far as the direction goes, I think one must be reasonably confident about where this is heading. The second question is, why are there doubts about it? And I think that percolates to the fact that there is this differentiated idea of India, that a certain critique class has. And according to that, India is composed of these hermetically sealed political units. So the political ideas just simply cannot transfer from one geography, one state, one place to another. So if there was a very popular chief minister of Gujarat in the 2000s, it was a done deal that chief minister won't ever go out and get votes in, let's say, the Hindi heartland. And then when that chief minister becomes the prime minister and gets some votes in the Hindi heartland, then there is another firewall erected that, oh, no. This is a phenomenon, that's limited to West and perhaps North of India. And there won't be, any more kind of like, subsequent movement of ideas. And, to that, I would say, perhaps take a bird's eye view, sit back and listen to the song Winds of Change, Scorpions, imagine Moskva, imagine Gorky Park,
Sure.
and so things happen. And in India, what we are seeing as of now, there is a transfer of ideas taking place. So if we say that there will be anti-incumbency and BJP might lose a few seats where it had maxed out previously, that doesn't, rule out BJP gaining in newer territories.
Absolutely.
Because
and as we've
at the
seen
end
in
of
this exit poll, yes, you're right. As we've seen, look at the polls, finally the numbers we've sort of collated and put together. 361, the polls are saying 361 for the NDA, 145 for the India Alliance, and of course 37 for the others. And when it's 361 for the NDA, it will be interesting to see what sort of percentage share the BJP is getting there, and what sort of a percentage...
one line. Just one line I like to get in, that India as a political entity is not so ossified as some analysts and critics think it is. It is still an living organic entity that has free flow of ideas way beyond the conventional medium that we often think it is limited to. And I think that might be the story of this election.
Fair point. Let me bring you in, Sotanu, on these poll of polls, these numbers, 361, 145, 37. How, there was some BJP politician, I'm forgetting who he was an MP from Bihar. He went on to say that एक बार election खत्म हो जाएगा तो India Bloc भी dissipate हो जाएगा. Do you see that happening if these numbers hold true? And BJP is getting way ahead, and NDA is getting way ahead of majority mark, and Prime Minister Modi is coming back as the Prime Minister. So clearly, India Alliance is not forming any sort of government at the center. But even if they, do you see this bloc continuing after this? Do you see this bloc coming together again in 2029?
So firstly, by April 15th, I had completed more than about two-thirds of my pan-India, travels. And by 15th April, I was certain that it's very, very unlikely that the BJP on its own will fall below 300. That was well before the polling and all these things started. So I'm not surprised with these numbers. And it's not as if everyone in India is in awe of Modi. It's as Abhishek pointed out, people are struggling. They are in deep distress. A majority of Indians earn very little and they are in deep distress, but they think that, most of them think that if the India Alliance को ले आएंगे तो ये थोड़ा बहुत जो है वो भी बर्बाद कर देंगे. So by default, I was certain by 15th April that BJP is winning about 300 seats, and for the longer term, India Alliance doesn't need to disintegrate. It really was never a cohesive alliance in the first place. So, but I think the opposition is still very, very strong, even though it's very dormant now, because there is no charismatic leader or there is no organized cadre-based movement which can throw a challenge to Narendra Modi in electoral terms. Yes. The opposition is very much there. Like, across India, I met dozens and dozens of people who detest and hate their local MP, yes, and BJP MP, detest. But they say, Modi ke liye dena hai because at least wo hamara bas. That's the thing. And the opposition will continue. It's not as if after this election, I have a feeling that opposition will intensify after this, yes, and there's a high possibility that this is the high noon for BJP. And 2029, the voters might deliver a huge shock to the BJP because the undercurrent of disappointment has started already. It's visible. It was visible to me.
Yeah. Okay, undercurrent of disappointment, Abhijit, your take on this undercurrent of disappointment that Sutanu saw while he was doing his travels, and he's been traveling for the last 3 months across India.
I'm not going to disagree with that. Things aren't optimal, but you have to look at this in terms of distress was far greater when Nehru, Indira Gandhi were prime minister, but they keep voting for the Congress. Why? Because that was the only real viable alternative, and the others were simply unheard of, unseen, not trustworthy. I don't know what there was no TV coverage then, and I really don't know who did ground research in those days, so I haven't read much about it. But see, they went on voting. Why? Because you're at least assured something. You're voting for the known disappointment rather than the unknown hope, if you want to call it that. The problem is the unknown isn't even offering you hope. They're essentially terrorizing you by saying कि जो तुमने कमाया है शायद वो भी तुम्हारा ना रहे. Which is where I think that Mangalsutra jive was genius, because the Mangalsutra is probably the only piece of jewelry that a absolutely destitute family will not part with. And I think that played at a very, very psychological level.
Okay. If these numbers hold, what is the biggest mistake? Would you classify this whole caste census and redistribution of wealth? Would you classify that as their biggest mistake? Arvind Kejriwal's arrest, because it's not just about one Rahul Gandhi. There's a Rahul Gandhi, Arvind Kejriwal, Mamata Banerjee, Tejasvi Yadav.
No, not the arrest at any rate, because what the arrest did was it destroyed his Mr. Clean image, but releasing just before the election meant that he wasn't even going to get any sympathy anymore. तो नाम भी खराब कर दिया और उसका जो sympathy आना था वो भी नहीं मिला. It's like you want your cake and eat it too. यहाँ ना ही तो cake मिला, ना ही तो cake का icing मिला आपको. So so that possibly not. But I don't think it was the caste census. I think what really got them was the wealth distribution. Yes. Because, caste census, in many ways, a caste census reservation, if you look at it, is not a controversial subject in India, because reservation is seen as हर माँ सोचती है कि उसका बच्चा अगला Bill Gates or Steve Jobs है. My mom also, despite my math scores and my science scores, used to harbor this very naive belief that I would be the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Look what I turned out to be. Mothers, Indian mothers are like that. Her only complaint is, अगर मेरे बच्चे को वो B.Tech में या BA कंप्यूटर साइंस में, BSc कंप्यूटर साइंस में भर्ती मिल जाता, वो फिर नारायण मूर्ति हो जाता. Okay, so that is a very powerful thing. And remember, anti-caste message of Hindutva being broken by a sort of caste, a caste-based push. In many ways, I think Rahul was trying a last hurrah where he tried to do to Modi what Mandal politics did to the Congress. Where Rajiv used to say, na jaat na paat ki baat karenge. Mandalization forced that. VP Singh forced that in a way. So he was trying to pull off that same maneuver, which probably would have worked. The issue is he conflated it with wealth redistribution, and that was not going to work. So he did something I thought was dangerous but smart, dangerous for the BJP but smart for him. But then he kind of scored a complete own goal by saying wealth redistribution, and then Modi had to pick up on Mangal Sutra. Notice he didn't pick up on caste redistribution, on caste census. He picked up on Mangal Sutra. So he found that weak point, and he, literally ungli karofied the weak point.
Ungli karofied the weak point, but clearly, because I've been with him for a couple of more shows than I have with you, Abhijit, and I know he feels very strongly about that Mangal Sutra thing and about the falling level of political rhetoric and campaigning in this country, and the Prime Minister in general, in particular. But we've seen worse, maybe. Because it's both sides.
Lowest of the low. Even the Narendra Modi of 2002 did not use this language. Even by his own standards, I think everybody who's objective will agree with me that we have never heard the Prime Minister polarize so directly. Use such.
I was listening to. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm going to use this again.
Now you're being like the other anchors. I praised you and said you give me time to talk.
No, but I gave you ample time to talk. Just hang on. Because I really want to ask you this question. And I was listening to, I think it was Shehzad Punawala on some other channel. Okay, just listen to me. And I said this before in this very show.
Can I just say about Shehzad? He comes and chants stotras, right? I don't understand. So this is what I don't understand. That I get accused of not being a Hindu by Shehzad because I don't know stotrams and I don't know. And he says, "Tum Shiv Tandav bolo." Abhijit Iyer I just want one light point. Abhijit Iyer will tell you, I'm an Iyengar. We don't worship Lord Shiva. It's an age-old feud that
उसको विष्णु सहस्रनामम बोल दो ना.
but उसको मैं कैसे समझाऊं भाई? वो तो he's a political Hindu. मैं क्या करूं? Anyway, continue.
My question was not about Shehzad Punawala, the human being, and Vishnu Tandav or Shiv Tandav.
There's no Vishnu Tandav, only Shiv Tandav.
The Shiv Tandav. He said, "Na Vishnu Tandav."
Vishnu Sahasranamam.
Vishnu Sahasranamam.
You can't say it. Just
never mind.
Sahasranamam. Sahasra all, the names.
Sahasranamam.
All the names of
See,
Vishnu.
now I got
MS.
it. See, he was so kind. He explained it. Sahasranamam. And you said, "Yeah, tumse nahi ho payega." But you know, that's
You listen to MS Subbulakshmi's rendition of it. It's longer than the 7-phase election we've had. So you can.
Okay, but you know, that's the question I want to ask. That you know, people have been accusing the BJP of polarizing this election. Today, the Prime Minister put out a tweet and he accused the Congress and the opposition parties of polarizing this election
Today?
by saying communal. Yeah,
I thought he's meditating, no?
no, he's finished his
Oh, he's
meditation
finished, okay.
and he put out a tweet. The meditation is over, done and dusted. It was
Okay.
supposed to be only till this afternoon or this evening.
Okay.
But having said that, he's and the rationale that Shehzad Poonawalla, I was listening to him earlier, he gave, and I've said this before on this show also, that vote jihad आपकी opposition बोले, हम बोले vote jihad नहीं करना तो हम communal हो गए. हाँ, Muslim reservation आप लोग बोले, आप communal नहीं है. हम कह रहे हैं Muslim reservation नहीं करना है तो हम communal हो गए. Right? So what? It cuts both ways.
Yeah.
If you're talking about communalism, making a campaign communal, if you're talking about polarization, it cuts both ways, doesn't it, Abhishek?
Okay, I'll answer your immediate question and then just make my final comment as well. The person who used this term vote jihad was a niece of Salman Khurshid.
Yes.
Who
A
holds
Congress leader.
yes, who holds no official position, I think, and she was condemned.
But he's a Congress
Okay,
leader.
Congress leader, but she
Yes.
was condemned. I condemned her. Congress party condemned her. Everybody condemned her and said what she said was wrong. But when the Prime Minister does blatant Hindu-Muslim politics, and he has given 80 interviews to the media this election season, he has given interviews to
Versus none given by Rahul Gandhi.
no, that's not the point. My point is, when the Prime Minister says to Rubika, I never do Hindu-Muslim, isn't it Rubika's journalistic duty to just question him and say, but what about this statement? And when he was asked, he said, मैं तो गरीब की बात कर रहा था. When I said जिसका ज़्यादा बच्चे होते हैं. So anyway, to make my larger point is that if you look at the Western press in the last 2 days in preparation for this, exit polls and counting day, no, my favorite's not there, but in preparation for the exit polls and the counting day, I was looking at CNN, I looked at The Guardian, I looked at the Washington Post, I looked at every major international publication. You might accuse The Guardian of having an agenda, but the CNN is nearly not as left as The Guardian is. All the reportage was that Prime Minister Modi intensifies his anti-Muslim rhetoric in the quest for a third term. Let me tell you that this polarization is hurting India's image. We have always been seen, as the Prime Minister says, the mother of democracy. On a human level, let me tell you, on a human level, right, I feel for the Muslims of India. I have friends who are in politics and not politics who are Muslims, who say they no longer answer the phone by saying Salam Alaikum, who tell their children, hide your Muslimness in public. They tell them, don't visibly identify as Muslim. You have to understand that the children of today are seeing these news debates. They're seeing the rhetoric. And when you demonize 20% of the country, see, the Muslims of India, can I just make my point? The Muslims of India are the enemy Narendra Modi needs. The easiest thing to do is to say he is the enemy. Why is Abhishek Sudhir invited on more programs by the pro-BJP media than the anti-BJP media? Because I am more important to a panel on Times Now than any pro-BJP voice is. Because I am the living embodiment of the enemy. I am the Tukde gang. I am the urban Naxal. I am the Muslim appeaser. I am the Babar lover. I am the Mughal lover. Right? I am the non-Hindu. I am the guy who can't recite the Shiv Tandav Stotra. But I, Shehzad Poonawalla, look at me. I am a Muslim, but I'm also a Hindu. I can wear the tika. I go to a temple. I learn the Stotra. Now, do I have to say to every Muslim, this is, Shehzad is the embodiment of that old slogan that the Bajrang Dal used to say, कि भारत में रहना है तो जय श्री राम बोलना है. And that is the ultimate tragedy. Let me tell you, over the next 5 years, if Narendra Modi wins another term in 2029, the first thing I'm going to do is join the BJP. Because we are going to head for a long period of single party rule. That
Okay,
is my, and just to finish off, the single party rule, what I mean by that is, you had the moderates and the extremists in the Congress of the old. People, right-thinking people who have political aspirations and want to see a more moderate version, who want to see a return of the BJP of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, will have to join the BJP and become the voices of moderation within the BJP. We are very, very close and on the cusp of single party rule. And
got you.
those who have lived through the emergency will say it can never happen, but there was a first French Republic, a second French Republic, a third French Republic, and a fourth and a fifth Republic.
Look,
this republic
if
will not
there's a
always
single
sustain.
party rule happening, sir, and I will just say one line and then I'll go just take last thoughts from Abhijit. It's probably because, as you yourself pointed out, the opposition is not getting its act together. There is Sutanu just mentioned that, and Abhijit agreed that there is sufficient
Put
resentment.
the pressure on them. Sharad Pawar has to fight ED cases. Ajit Pawar has to fight ED cases. Arvind Kejriwal has to fight a liquor case. You're always trying to stay out of jail. When are you going to have time to ideate and come together as a political
I
opposition?
need you to come back on that. How is the your last thoughts and two questions. One, Narendra Modi, a Muslim hater. First thing, the first point that Abhishek. Okay.
If tomorrow hating Hindus will make Narendra Modi Prime Minister, he will hate Hindus.
Oh, okay. Quest for power.
Yes.
And question, shall I answer one by one?
Yes, one by one. This and then the opposition.
I completely reject this notion of Muslim hater, because if you look at government funds dispersal to Muslims, they have gone up exponentially. The actual delivery of services, the feudalization of the Muslim, he has focused on very, very carefully. What he is doing is, and remember, the Shias vote for him openly. The Daudi Boras, the Sayyidina literally tells his followers to vote for them, otherwise main tumko community se nikal dunga. Right? The Ismailis vote for him. Both Tehseen and Shehzad are Ismailis. Okay, the Shias were always seen as the Mukbirs, the informers of the Indian state after the KPs were kicked out. They vote for the BJP. There are variations in the 12er Shia voting, but they do vote for the BJP. The problem is very specifically Sunnis out here who are a completely feudalized polity. He is defeudalizing them because the wealth distribution system is no longer going to be based on people like Salman Khurshid and Nawab Zada and Malik Zada and this and that. It is going to be direct relationship between the Muslim and the government, including scholarships at madrasas and things like that. Now, Modi was very specifically quoting the Congress. And notice he did it in a very smart way. He put all these colons and semicolons, which were also there in Manmohan Singh's speech when he said minorities have the first right, which then allowed the Congress to go around saying that no, he was not saying that about minorities. He was saying also not just Muslims minorities, but all minorities. Now, it's very curious that some people want to accept colons and semicolons in the first speech, but not in the second speech where he was paraphrasing Manmohan Singh. So I reject that completely. Question number two.
Question number two, and I'm going to put that, sorry, I'm taking it away from you because my other panelist is sitting here. I'm taking that to Sutanu. Opposition not being allowed to become cohesive. Do you, your views on that, your thoughts on that, and then we're going to close.
I will not agree with it because there is little doubt that Narendra Modi is a ruthless politician. There is no doubt about it. And there are about 28 states and in about 10-12 of them, non-BJP chief ministers are there. They're doing fairly well also. And it's not as if everyone who is opposed to Narendra Modi is facing the ED heat or CBI heat or whatever. The problem is that the opposition parties are not able to build a coherent narrative that can upset or upstage Narendra Modi. It's as simple as that. Now, CBI, ED are not, really hurdles in that sense to build a narrative. So, I don't agree with that. If they were successful in building a narrative, then definitely Narendra Modi would have faced a challenge. I mean, they did win Karnataka assembly elections very, very handsomely. And Siddharamaiah is not facing any ED probe.
I think
political parties. It is happening.
No,
in so many
I
states.
told you it's a ruthless.
No, it's not about ruthless. It's Ajit Pawar is go to jail or join me. That is the
That
option.
we don't know. No,
I
these
mean,
are
come
all.
on.
I mean,
Come on. I mean, Ajit Pawar, what did Modi call NCP? Nationalist Corrupt Party.
अरे
Come on.
देवेंद्र फडणवीस ने तो बोला ही था ना कि अजीत पवार के लिए कि he'll be चक्की पीसिंग, but we don't have any concrete, at least in front of us, any
The Prime
concrete.
Minister's word is not enough.
No,
That they're corrupt.
any concrete proof that they are. So look,
Yeah.
even every party has, like, if you go down that path, every party has
Aditi,
corrupt
how do you
leaders.
combat their ideology? Like what he said. What is the counter to Hindutva? Whether you like it or not, it is once again the Nehruvian
You
idea
have to,
of
yeah.
India, which today has no takers. That is the only thing that unites the opposition, is that we believe in secularism. You come back to that again. That Hindutva. What is the counter to Hindutva? Tell me. There is no counter.
Okay, we can talk about this
No,
all
no,
night
no.
long.
Sentence here.
No.
Yes.
You know, Narendra Modi faced a lot of Supreme Court monitored CBI heat over the 2002 riots. He was interrogated. The rest we don't need to add. Amit Shah was arrested. He spent months in jail and he was made a tadipar. He was effectively emasculated. Now, how did these two manage to then win the Lok Sabha elections in 2014?
When
Because
they-
they were able to build a coherent alternative
And
narrative which
therefore,
appealed to the voters.
the opposition
I mean-
probably, if these numbers hold, need to
The-
build a narrative. Yes, Manu, please. Last thoughts. then we
See,
wind
in
up.
1977, the entire opposition contested from jails. Entire.
Exactly.
Good point. Very good.
There
point.
was one radio station controlled by the government, telephone lines controlled by the government, telegraph post controlled by the government. There was everything was censored, all newspapers were censored. Despite that, if people wanted to vote out the incumbent, they quietly went out and did it. There was no internet, no social media, no big tech, no big money, nothing
That
at
was
all.
an anti-
So,
and Indira Gandhi returned
if
3 years
people in democracy make a decision, they will show it.
Let's
When the day
give our
comes.
voters, let's give the Indian electorate that much credit that yes, they will. And as Sutanu said, 2029, he'll be very surprised if we see a similar kind of verdict.
And this is
Maybe,
not the
maybe
result
not.
rate also, by
And
the
these, oh yes, of course. Sorry, I take back my words. Not a verdict,
Yeah.
but these kind of exit polls, if the numbers hold, then this kind of verdict.
Yes. No,
I
what I would
understand
just
what
say
you're
is, saying you're against Modi is not enough. That same thing happened in 77. We are all against Indira.
हाँ, हमें anti-Modi,
No, but anti-Indira vote था 77,
हाँ.
80 में वापस आ गई, basically. So even if you manage to defeat Narendra Modi, Hindutva is here to stay. Yogi Adityanath is here to stay. Himanta Biswa Sarma is here to stay. So you have to build a coherent ideology that is counter to Hindutva, and that can only be again the idea of India.
And you missed out on
secularism.
adding Annamalai to that
Oh,
list.
Annamalai,
because
Sai Deepak, everybody.
Abhijit said he
Abhijit
will
Iyer
be there.
Mitra.
हाँ, वो,
Yeah.
हाँ.
Everybody will be PM.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, wow, okay. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, you've just been designated.
No, I added Ranganathan, added Sai Deepak, I'll add Abhijit Iyer Mitra.
All right, okay. All right, thank you so much for joining us. All of you had a very interesting conversation, very interesting numbers the exit polls have thrown. A poll show 361 for the NDA, 145 for the India Alliance, others of course at 37. We'll see which way the winds blow when come June 4th. Where the actual numbers will be reflected on this very screen. Please don't forget to join us on that day. We'll be live from 7:30 a.m. in the morning. See you then. Goodbye. Good night.